Okay, what's going on, family? Peace and shalom, peace and shalom. What is going on? Just give me a second. Let me just get a couple of things together. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm gonna give y'all a second for y'all to pour on in. Give it a moment. And I'll cover a couple things. Gotta get the link over to somebody too, so hold on. Okay. All right, what's going on, family? What's going on? What is going on? All right, so we're going to touch on a couple of things today, and then I'm supposed to have a guest that wanted to come on and chat with me about the New Testament, quote unquote. So we're going to address that. Just get this popping. Just having some more technical difficulties, man. I hate the internet. Do my best to work hard to get it improved where I'm at, so I don't have any issues. But Comcast, nah. When I had Google Fiber, I had little to no issues. Wireless or wired. Comcast, not good track record. But that's for another time. Okay. So, fix this. Okay. All right. So, while we're waiting, let me give a couple of shout outs. Right. Shout out to Joseph Donald in the building. What's going on? Scott Garrett Headley. What's up? Jimmy Johnson. Coco G in the building. Paul Brasfield. Yahoo Seth. Ben Yisrael. What's going on? Benjamin Dyer Wolf. Jen 4927. Ya'a Asan Tawa. Daughter of Zion. Sharon Hammonds. Yahuin Yisrael. Bina in the building. Jill C. What's going on? Thomas Jackson. Karis Copeland. Lynn King. Azriel. Maccabees. Remarkable Ministries, Reckless Animosity, what's going on? Jack Max, G Brown, John and Dorsey, Jacko Black, Dr. Janet Newell, Shalom, sis, what's going on? David Peterson in the building, Strong Island, keep it a buck. Erica Yashel, 112, Yawasop, Son of Light. All right, Devin, Sherald, and Smooth Vessel. All right, I see Priscilla Sharp just joined in. Again, family, thank you for coming on in. Make yourselves cozy. You know how we do. You know what I'm saying? We get down on the Freestyle Fridays as much as we can. Forgive me, I'm a little sleepy. So I'm going to try to push through it and try to produce a decent show for you guys. Again, like I said, I'm also waiting on a guest. Hopefully he commits to having this discussion. We'll see. And we'll just go from there. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Berean Watchman, Leslie Fields, V-Men 14. What's going on? What's going on? All right. See a lot of people from KHM DMV in the building. That's what's up. That's what's up. Okay. So shout out to EP, Sedaria Halliburton. What's going on? So family, as you're coming on in, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button as you're coming on in. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button so we can get this video moved to the top of the search engine on YouTube. All right. So that way it can show up as suggestions and random people's feed. Like we had the last time we was on here. Somebody just saw it on their feed, clicked on it and joined in. So that's what we want to do. We want to bring this to the masses. All right. We don't want to keep preaching to the choir. We want to be able to speak broadly to our people, no matter where they may be. Whether they're awake or whether they're still sleeping. You feel what I'm saying? So we want to be able to convey a soul edifying message to the people. All right. All right. Shout out to Renee BL in the building. The souls of our ancestors. Sister Lynette in the building. Sister Shanti 916 Shan. What's going on? Job Paul Music. What's up? What's up? My cousin in the building, Janella Johnson. Oh, okay. That's what's up. Hope you enjoy this. That's my real blood cousin. Hope you enjoy this, Nell. Sit back, relax, enjoy yourself. Let me know what you think of the show afterwards. Get me up sometime this weekend and let me know what you think. Thank you for joining in here. Sometimes Uncle T joins in from time to time, and Uncle Herb and them. But we'll see. You know, sometimes my brother jumps in here. You know what I mean? My sister, she be watching too sometimes, but she don't be making no comments. You know what I'm saying? So I just thank the Most High that there's a lot of people in my family that watches this, you know, whether they leave a message in the chat or not. So I'm just thankful and grateful for that. And, you know, my thing was I never push, you know, my subscription on my family. You know what I'm saying? I maintained my character and continue to be the person I was. You know what I'm saying? The only thing changed was my outlook and ideology as it pertains to certain things that some would call theological or cultural. But other than that, you know what I'm saying? I just lived the life, you know what I'm saying? And maintain, you know, I tell people all the time that, you know, if you beating somebody down to give them the information is not working, then you need to back off. You feel what I'm saying? Like you need to back off and you need to give them some space and just live it out. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be able to live it in a certain way that attracts people to want to inquire to say, okay, what is so-and-so doing now? You understand what I'm saying? And then anytime that you approach, you respond with tact and diplomacy, right? If you have the truth, you don't have to fight for the truth. Let the truth fight for you. All you do is be like a ventriloquist. You know what I'm saying? Let the truth speak through you. All right. So that's how you let it get down. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to the Black Ev in the building and the Queen Naptural Beginnings. What's going on? KMD, Larry. What's up? What's up? All right. So we're about to go ahead and get started, family. I just want to give y'all some time to come on in. Goddess Isis in the building. What's going on, sis? What's going on? All right. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So first things first, I want to update you guys on our app. All right. So let me go ahead and show it to you on the screen. Again, this app you can download from both the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Also, as I'm doing this, family, if there is any issues with the audio or video, please let me know in the chat. All right. Please let me know in the chat. All right. So the app, again, I made some modifications to the app to make some things more readily accessible and front and center. All right. So, you know, the name of the app is called the My One Church app. All right. You'll see it scrolling across the screen. All right. Let me show you what it looks like if you was to go to the Apple App Store and get it. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay. This is what it looks like right here. All right. So that's what it looks like if you was going to the Apple App Store. All right. It's called the My One Church app. All right. Everybody that's in this room, anybody that's watching this on a replay, we need you guys to download this app ASAP. Okay, download ASAP. If you enjoy the content on this channel, you want to get involved in the things that we're doing at KHM, and you want to get some exclusives because we're going to start adding some exclusives. You have to get the app. Okay, and I'm going to show you some conveniences that I modified the app so that way you guys can get it. All right, so pretty much the My One Church app. This is the portal to my app. Okay. Now, if you have Google Play, this is what it looks like. Let me show it to y'all. Right. If you have Google Play, it's going to look like this. It's going to say My One Church app. All right. My One Church app. All right. So again, take a moment, go on your phones. Okay. Type in My One Church app. All right. Click on it to download and install it. All right. Now, once you have it downloaded and installed, you're going to open it up. You're going to see a field that says zip code. You're going to type 30064. 30064. And you'll see Kingdom Harbinger Ministries show up. All right. Shout out to Emmanuel Broussard for the donation. I appreciate that, my brother. Thank you so much. All right. And once it shows up, click on it. And then once you click on it, it's going to bring you to the home screen. I'm going to show you what it looks like here on my end. Right. And I'm going to show you the conveniences that I set up with it. All right. So this is what it looks like. It says Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, Culture Community Autonomy, Shalom. We're glad you're here. In addition to the buttons below, tap on the 3 bars at the upper left to see the other areas of the app and enjoy. All right. So as you can see here on this side, this is the 3 bars that they're talking about. If you click on that, it'll bring you to a menu. Okay. All right. And if we go back, as you can see, I've customized it. So there's some buttons here on it. I don't know what that is. I think that might have been a light that's shining on there. There we go. All right. So as you can see by looking at it here, all right, you see there's a membership button. So if anybody here wants to join KHM in the app, just click on membership. It'll take you to the form. You fill it out and we'll take it from there. All right. We have groups. You click on groups. We have tons of groups because different departments in the organization that we need roles to be filled, as well as the various chapters in the different cities. We got about 10 city chapters that we have going on in there. All right. You can click on events to see any upcoming events that we have. So you'll see Freestyle Friday on there, as well as our upcoming KHM research paradigm for Bible study, holistic research paradigm for Bible study classes will be coming up soon. Okay. All right. Also, you see events. It's not clear no more. I don't know what just happened. There we go. All right. You'll see events. And then the Patreon, if you click that button, it'll take you right to the Patreon. You can sign right in within the app. All right. And check out the Patreon. You got the link to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All right. Also, you see that button at the bottom. It says the lessons. If you click on that, all our videos will be up there for all the lessons that we've done on YouTube, and some exclusives will be on there as well coming soon. Okay. So you want to click that and you'll be able to see all of our videos in one place within the app, and you can watch it directly through the app. All right. There's also a button for the Bible. If you click on that, it'll take you to Bible Hub. All right. Bible Hub, and you can access the Bible right through the app. Okay. When you click on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, it'll take you to the external web browser so you can log in there. However, if you go to the Patreon, you can do it from within the app. The lessons within the app, a Bible within the app, and everything else will be within the app. Okay. All right. So when you get a chance, get this, play around with it, click around, see what we got going on, sign up for some stuff. All right. Check out some content and enjoy yourselves, man. Enjoy your stay on the app. All right. So again, that's the Kingdom Harbinger Ministries app that we got popping. We have a lot more stuff that's coming on that we're going to do with the app. All right. So stay tuned. Okay. Shout out to Larry Four Corners for the donation. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Shout out to Manuel Marcellin for the donation. Thank you so much, Manuel. I appreciate that. Shout out to Jay Lockhart 25 in the building. JD Israel, what's going on? What's going on? All right, Zeph in the building. Zedek Ben Yisrael. What's up? What's up? What's going on? What's going on? All right. Jacko Black says, every time you speak on falling back and living this culture out, that resonates with me, DP. That's what's up, King. All right. I'm glad it helps somebody. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm here. I'm here to help the people. All right. Okay. So with that being said, family, I want to get that out the way. All right. Also on our Patreon, we just added 2 new books. One of them I may bring out tonight, or both of them I may bring out tonight if I do have this conversation with the brother who said he wanted to chat. His name is Judah is Back on Facebook. Okay. Judah is Back on Facebook. For whatever reason, you know, he said that he would be available. So I'm just waiting on him to click the link and jump on in. All right. In the interim, until we wait for him to come on in, there's going to be some stuff that I'm going to talk about. But again, family, y'all go ahead and get this Patreon. All right. And on the Patreon, we added 2 new books. And after tonight, I'm going to reference several more books. And you guys can get it on the Patreon. Also, I still have to put up a book on the Zohar that I have to add tonight once this is over. But let me go ahead and show you the screen real quick. All right. This right here is our Patreon. Okay. Let me zoom in. All right. As you can see, we have 267 Patrons, 196 images, 14 links, 1 poll, 41 videos. There's 219 exclusive posts. All right. Also through the Patreon, it can take you to our Facebook, our Instagram, and our YouTube. All right. All right. So also we have on here, we have this book called Book Suggestions called Did Jesus Exist? Did Jesus Exist? And this is the historical case for Yeshua Bar Yosef. Another book right here called The Glory of the Invisible God. And what this does is that it tells you about binatarianism in the Tanakh or the Old Testament. All right. These are 2 of the recent books that we've loaded on the Patreon since we last chatted, I think on Monday. And I'm going to add another 2 or 3 at the end of this session. Okay. But again, all you do if you're part of the Patreon, you log in, you just click on the post, right? And when you click on the post, then when you get into the actual post itself, you'll get a description of the book. And then there's a link that you can click on to access the book. So there's people that I know that have Patreon that just would see this and scroll past it, or maybe it'll pop up on their feed and they wouldn't do nothing to it. No. Click it. You must click it to get information about the book, a summary about the book, and then click the link below to access the book itself. You can read it for free at no additional cost. All right. And I think we have almost 120 books in there already. And I'm going to try to add at least another 30 before the month is out, so we can get 150 before the year's over, because this is December. Okay. So there's tons of books on there. It covers a lot of the stuff that I bring out on here, because like I tell people all the time, I'm not over here masquerading like I'm some guru who speaks to divine angels and so forth. You know what I'm saying? And bringing deep revelations to y'all. I mean, I come to conclusions using a research methodology, which I'm going to go over as well, because a lot of people have asked me about that. I've talked about it previously. I've hinted at it as well, but I'm going to unpack it some more when we do our KHM Holistic Research Paradigm for Bible Study classes. That's when you're really going to get the nitty-gritty of it. We're going to do an introduction to that class for free here on YouTube. And then everything else after that, you either have to be part of the Patreon, $20 tier or more to get access, or you can pay for the classes a la carte. It's going to be $40 a month for 4 courses, which is $10 per course. All right. Or per class. All right. People tell me I should charge way more than that. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. You know, it's compensation for my time, energy, and effort to take time out of my busy schedule to do that, as well as to provide invaluable sources and my research methodology that I'm all going to unload on the community. Again, I've already discussed this for free on YouTube. However, this will be more cohesive, more coherent, and it'll be in a more smaller environment, right? With less people. You know what I'm saying? So far, we got like almost 30 people that have RSVP for these courses. Again, you can do so in the app. So if you go into the app and click on the events, you'll see it in the event section on the app. And you can RSVP there. All right. Whoever RSVP on there when we start are the only people that's going to be able to get in. We'll be able to verify if you're a Patreon. And if so, you'll be able to access it at no cost. If not, then we'll have a link for you to actually donate. So that way you can get access to the courses. All right. And again, I tell people all the time, you get 4 classes in 1 month. So after 1 month, you'll have almost everything you need to proceed forward. However, there's people going to be like, nah, I'm going to continue to bang out, because this is the way I continue to edify and sharpen myself. And my objective is by the time I get maybe to the 3rd month, I won't be asking y'all to get involved and do it as well. You know, we got to play around to make sure that the people that are following the class can actually do the same thing. That's the objective of it, to give you everything that I use when I approach the text, right? Because Yah forbid if something happens to Divine, I don't want this to end because of me. I want to be able to pass it on as a legacy to everybody in the community and open it up wide for anybody to access. All right. And this is what we do here. We provide services, information, you know, tools, etc., to build up the community. You know, I've always been one where I don't like when you have these gurus that try to conceal and keep all this information to themselves and not tell you the sources. I'm about to bring some stuff out, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself. But I encourage people to press whoever your leader is to ensure that they're always showing you their hand, and that they're always providing you the resources, the sources, the tools, the methodology, etc. So that way you can, independent of them, use the same stuff that they use and come to see if you come to the same conclusion. I give it as well because the objective of me teaching is so that those who I teach can teach me. See, if you don't teach with that mindset, then you'll lose the idea that in order for you to be a great teacher, you must also be a great student. But you have to train your students to be teachers. So not only they can teach others, but they can also teach you. Okay. So that's why we do what we do. And that's why every time that we receive donations on this channel, do our Patreon, anything else, we put it back into galvanizing resources, creating classes and services that we offer for free credit repair services, free naturopathic health consultation services. We give it back to the community. Okay, this is what we're doing. And this is every time you invest in us, it's not just going to me just sitting here on YouTube, just preaching to you. You're not paying for that. I don't think anybody should pay for that. You know what I'm saying? However, if we do something outside of that, that is equipping you, that is providing you with things that do have a high value, right? Whether it's a service, resource, or whatever, you know, the little bit that we do recoup from that helps to make up for the time, energy, and effort that's taken away from other important things to devote it back to the community. Okay, so I'm here to be a servant. All right. So Bina says, where's it at again on your Patreon? What are you looking for on the Patreon, Bina? Are you looking to sign up? Or are you looking for the books? Just let me know, and I can tell you where it's at. All right. Shout out to Sister Yawa Asantawa, daughter of Zion. She said hashtag Patreon life. Listen, I'm telling y'all, man, there's so much stuff on Patreon. I don't even know if you can get through all of it. You know what I'm saying? In one sitting, you have to take some time to get through all the content we have on there, and then reading the books. Man, that's going to take you a long time. Depends. You know, I'm a bibliophile, so I share my library with the community. You know what I'm saying? So, so hopefully that helps. All right. So Keith Williams says, are we supposed to give money to our brothers and sisters for the knowledge of Abba Yah? It depends. It depends. The scripture says that the laborer is worthy of his reward. The scripture says, do not muzzle the ox as he treads the grain. Okay. There are principles in the text where there are the people who are the leaders, the people who are the givers, that the community is to take care of them. This is a village. Okay. So the objective is not to overwhelm anybody. All right. My YouTube channel is free. You ain't got to pay nothing to watch this YouTube channel. I put out tons of lectures on this YouTube channel, tons of live streams, shared so much information. So if anybody wants any information without having to invest, then you can just go through the litany of videos. We got over 300 plus videos on YouTube. You have tons of content to go to. However, there's additional content that I take more time aside to put together in order to provide for the people that I go out and search for books that could be unattainable by a lot of people, that I either get through universities, I get through having access to certain websites, academic sources, things that I may have purchased myself, and then make it available to the community that I read through, that I scan, and I say, okay, this will be a good reference. This will be a good reference. I mean, I take time to do this, okay, and give back to the community. So if you don't want to invest, you don't have to. The YouTube is here. Go through all the videos on the YouTube and check it out. I even tell you the books on YouTube, so you can go and buy them for yourself. However, as part of the Patreon, guess what? You get access to them at no additional cost. So there is a benefit. But you got to remember, the people who are actually taking their time aside from their personal lives, from their work lives, from their ministry lives, and from lives where they should have time to themselves. I rarely ever have time to myself because I'm always doing this, right? That those people should be compensated for their time, energy, and effort because of the laboring that they do. All right. So if they decide, hey, I'm going to do something different for the community and do this or do that. I mean, if they add a cost on it, then if you don't want to invest, that's fine. But guess what? If nobody gives to the ministry, we can't provide free services. How are we going to provide free services? Because then now we got to take more time aside. Now I can't employ other people because that's what we're doing. We employ people. And we have to give them bonuses and so forth as an incentive to provide these services from the donations that we raise here as a ministry. So whoever's saying this obviously doesn't know how a ministry is ran and never run a ministry. I'm not preaching you guys happy and then saying, all right, send your tithes and your offerings too. Sow a seed too. I'm not doing that. With the Patreon, I said, look, give whatever you led to give. Whatever you want to give. Even if it's a penny. If you want to give it, fine. If you don't want to give it, pray for us. Share the video. Hit the thumbs up. That's it. So you ain't got to, you don't have to spend a dime to get the knowledge that we share from this ministry. You have over 320 something videos on YouTube. Take your time and go do each video and watch all of them. Some of them are hours long. You have enough content. But then there's exclusive content to the people that want to level up. right? And then we want to provide those resources there. I don't see nobody going to a college and saying, hey, you know what? I want to come in for free. Because, you know, they got colleges that teach religion. You think they're going to let you come in there and learn about God for free? That's not going to happen. But you come to your own that are catering, customizing information for you, not just give you some general curriculum. And you say, hey, should we have to pay for this? Why we got to give money? But yet we go and we travel at our own expense to go to different cities, set up chapters, right? We go into the community, we do work. We show the stuff that we're doing. So it's not like we just sitting here on this money. We're investing it. We're allocating it to the areas that it needs to go. And yeah, I want to become to a point where we're able to raise enough money through grants and getting angel investors and so forth, then we can lift the cost off of the things that we have on things that we offer. We could just start giving more stuff for free, which is my ultimate desire. Right. But it costs to get to this point. I've been devoting more time to doing this. OK, and even the people that call and I speak to, we set up an appointment with our answering service and I speak to, they can attest to it. I take time out to speak to these people one on one and help them whatever concern it is. OK, so there's a lot that we do. So, hey, like I said, if you don't want to invest, you don't have to. But that's not going to discourage those who do want to invest to get more or to level up in regards to coming into this information, reconstructing, restoring their culture, and being able to apply the things that they're learning so they can fix societal ills in the community. All right. All right, William, Keith, you asking a lot of questions, but I'm gonna keep you on hold for now. I'm gonna transition. All right. Ishchi Town Rael says, I personally always say if you are not sure of something or someone, ask Yah. Facts. Definitely. Shout out to Yvette Powell in the building. All right. My brother Ryan Robertson said, bro, you don't have to explain yourself. It's insulting and degrading for people to expect for you to do otherwise. You're absolutely right, my brother. And I agree with you. However, I do still take time to address anybody in the chat, even if it's a troll, right? I take time to address them in a way that's respectful. I try to maintain decorum. Sometimes they throw buzz things out there that may get me a little riled up. But for the most part, I try to make everybody, know that I am paying attention. And if you do have a valid concern, I'm willing to give an answer. All right. And I have no problem with that. All right. 150K debt coming out of college is the trap. Look, we got a debt elimination service, credit repair service that we offer for free. Now, there's paid elements of it if you want to upgrade, but we give it for free. You know how we're able to give it free? Through donations. So when people contact us and they have, student loans from third party entities and they need assistance with it, well, we're able to tell them how to get it done. So if somebody's telling me that, oh, well, wow, do we got a course? Well, then you can find somewhere else to go then. It's no problem. I have no problem with that. All right. All right. So y'all saying a lot of things. Shout out to my brother Des the Hebrew said, I once heard you say tattoos weren't necessarily against the law. Could you elaborate if possible? You heard me say that? I don't think I ever said that to you before. The text says, do not print any marks on your body. I did a whole, matter of fact, type DivineProspect tattoo, and you'll see the live stream in which I touched on tattoos. All right. I didn't say it wasn't against the law. I didn't say that. The law says do not print any marks on your body. And I went into tribal tattooing and I explained how that was being done during the time of the Levant in which this was delivered to the Israelites. Okay. So the text says do not print any marks on your body and do not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead. And I explained what all of that means in light of what was going on in the Canaanite backdrop of the Levant. Okay. And what I did was I sourced from the Ugaritic tablets and the Epic of Baal, and I explained what that custom was. Disfiguring shaving your face bald and disfiguring your face so nothing grows back, and how the cutting in the flesh is what El was doing in Modern for Baal. I went into over all of that, my brother. So if you get a chance, Des, go back, type in DivineProspect, type in tattoo, and you'll be able to see what I taught on that. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Now, if there's people that get tattoos before coming into the truth, is the Most High going to reject them for that? No. These are things that we did in our ignorance, right? But the Most High winked at that ignorance. Now he expects all people to turn to Shuvah, right? So you now have an opportunity to refrain from printing marks on your body, from making cuttings in your flesh, okay? From disfiguring your face after you're shaving bald so that your beard doesn't grow back if you're a man. All right, now you have an opportunity to do these things, and it's a process. Okay, everybody's not going to change cold turkey overnight. It's a process, and we have to meet people where they are. All right, so hopefully that answers your question. Okay. All right. Thank you, sis, for the donation. She said it takes time, money, and prayers. May the Most High continue to order your steps. All praise to the Most High Yah. Thank you so much, sis. You're right, and I agree. Erica Yashel says, if we've sown into you our spiritual things, is it a great thing that we shall reap your carnal things? Facts. Even Shaul said they had to raise money so they can take care of other brethren that was being persecuted during that time period. Okay. And what did Paul said? If some of you follow Paul, he says, give what you're led to give. Don't be coerced into giving. I don't coerce or force anybody to give anything. I don't say, oh, your salvation is dependent upon it. I said, no, these are the things that we're doing for the community. And these are why we're monetize certain things that we're offering. So that way we can provide services to people who don't have. All right. Okay. All right. Shout out to Yashuran in the building. El Nathan, Goddess Isis. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Chai is in Chi-Town, Chicago. Is Chi-Town Rael or real? I got you. Shout out to my brother Shamant Stroman in the building. Sister, a renewed mind. What's going on, sister? You go above and beyond. Your actions are their own witness. All praise to the Most High. Harvest is plenty, workers are few. Yes, sis, you are absolutely correct. All right. No problem, Des. Again, just type my name in to YouTube and tattoo, and you go ahead and see what I taught on that. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you so much, my brother Jack Max. You are absolutely correct. All right. Royal Gem. Facts. How come nobody get mad at the publishing companies that sell the Bible? Exactly. All right. Yes, it is my job. I've devoted myself wholly to this. So this is why I've endeavored on doing things on the side to take care of my personal expenses. So that way we can accumulate funding from the ministry and allocate in the places that's need. You don't hear the phone calls where people say, hey, I need $1,000. I need $500. So am I supposed to take that out of the money that I have for my family and give it to somebody and have them struggle? No, the ministry is there to minister, to serve. So if we raise money and somebody calls me and says, I need $500, $100, of course, we're going to screen them first. Before I used to give money out. Now I don't do that. I screen them first and we validate and verify who they are. But we've given out thousands of dollars. Since 2014, I've given out thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. All right. And I don't come on here and say, yeah, we gave this, we gave that. We've given away thousands of dollars. During the pandemic, COVID-19, we set up a GoFundMe and we gave away thousands of dollars based on monies that we raised for people that were in need. So you're seeing what we're doing. We got the fruit of our labor out there. So if you don't want to invest, that's fine. That's okay. At the end of the day, it's 300 plus videos on this channel. Go ahead and knock yourself out. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and move forward. All right. That's the Patreon. I appreciate that. Let me show you guys one more thing that I think will be good for everybody. I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to keep mentioning it because I want people to get a little extra change in their pocket if possible. All right. So check out Dosh, $H. All right. And this is a cashback app. All right. There's no cost for it. All you do is download it, install it. Once you launch it, you attach one of your cards to it, your debit or credit card to it, and you just shop like you normally do. And you get a cashback percentage from shopping with the card. There's no upfront cost, no money, no annual fees, no month-to-month fees. There's no fees. You download the app. And once you download the app, you add a card to the app, and then you just use that card like you normally do. And when you shop at places that's within the app that they're partnered with, you'll get cash back on things that you're already shopping for. I've made at least $500 off of this app simply just for shopping. All right. And when you do get it, the referral code you're going to add is RONS35, RONS35. You'll see it in the description below. And that will be a referral that goes back to me. And then after you do the referral, you'll get your own referral code. You can refer other people, and you get up to $15 for every referral. When somebody downloads, installs, connects their card, and uses their card to get cash back, you get $15. Okay. So if you want to make a little extra change on the side from shopping, which all of us already do, get the Dosh app. I'm not being paid to advertise or sponsor this. This is something that I've already been using for some time, and I've been making money back doing regular cash purchases in person or online. And I just want to extend that information out to the rest of the community so y'all can put a little extra change in your pocket. All right. All right. Cool. All right. Shout out to my brother Yehuda Daweed. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate that. He says, Shabbat Shalom, DP, your ministry feeds. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate that. All right. Shout out to my brother, Aharwan Yasharala, joining Patreon this month. Most High willing. Thank you so much, King. I appreciate that. All right. Again, here's a code right here from Sister Consuelo F. Ron S35. All right. That's the referral code. All right. All right. So Keith Williams says, just don't let greed sink in your heart. See, family, I'll be ready to get this little stuff out the way so I can jump into the lesson. But then we have people, like the brother Keith Williams that has these concerns. Right now, again, it's the minority voice because most people in here, they understand it. Right. But I try to take a moment to do this because most other, I guess, gurus or personalities will just ignore that. However, because I have nothing to hide, I'm willing to address it. All right. My cousin said, what made you become an Israelite? Hold that thought now. I think what I'm going to do is talk to you on the phone about this. We're gonna chat on the phone. So text me now. Let me know when you're available to chat, and I will talk to you about this. All right, and give you the details. All right, that's my blood cousin right there. All right. So let me address this. All right. Keith says, just don't let greed sink in your heart, brother, for we all get tested to stay righteous. I wholeheartedly agree, my brother. Wholeheartedly. Now, there's no greed. You know what greed would be? For me to sit here and talk, right? Just talk and then ask y'all to give me stuff and have nothing to show for it. That's greed. If I'm accumulating this money and I'm deceiving people to get it, that's greed. If I'm talking and preaching you happy just to collect money for my own desires, right? That's greed. If I do things to scam people, that's greed. I'm not driven by greed, my brother. Money is only a tool. The scripture says money answereth all things. The things that we need currently, you need finances in order to do it. And if you follow the Bible, finance was necessary to run any nation. Did you see all the things that we are starting and we're working on doing at KHM? That requires finances. This is why we do what we do. Matter of fact, my brother, go back and check out one of our KHM chapter launch event presentations. We have about 4 of them. You can see them through the app and the lessons button or go on this YouTube. And we do a whole PowerPoint about how we operate as an organization openly for anybody to see. If somebody was greedy, would they show you all of that? No? Okay. All right, cool. Just wanted to address that, my brother. All right. No, he didn't. One Love says, thank you. I received the quick study charts. You're welcome, sis. Shout out to my team in the building for getting it out to Sister One Love. You are more than welcome. All right. No, he didn't see the free cash giveaways, but we got more cash giveaways as well. We got giveaways for small businesses. We was doing that during COVID. I mean, we do this stuff. We just give it away. And like I said, people call us all the time. Hey, I need $300. Here you go. You know what I'm saying? If I was to hit them back, hey, would you be okay with giving your testimony? We'd have tons of people come on this channel. But why would I need to parade people around here to prove to you what I'm doing behind closed doors? I shouldn't have to do that because those are those people's personal lives. Anything people shares with us in confidence, we keep confident unless they're willing to allow their testimony to be shared. All right. But again, this is just how it operates. This is how you run a ministry. You need finances in order to do it. It cannot be done for free. It just cannot be done for free. I'm sorry. It just cannot. You know what I'm saying? And if you have one where it is, more power to you. Matter of fact, I'll support it. Just tell me what you're doing. Keith Williams, show us what you're doing. If you got some resume to show us or a YouTube channel or some work that you're doing in the community, let me know. Call us 678-430-3832. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. All right. Speak to our answering service team. All right. Leave a message. And if you have something going on, we'll support it. We'll support it. If you have another paradigm, another way in which we can get this done, let us know. We'd be more than happy to do that, my brother. Okay. All right. Man. Shout out to my brother Lafayette. Oh, I didn't know that was you. Fix 411000. Lafayette, I did not know that was you, my brother. Yo, can you please reach out to the I sent him the link because I told him I would give it to him. I sent him the link. Please reach out to them and let them know that we are also waiting for him. All right. Stop taking what I said personal. I'm going to take it personal because you made it personal. All right. So I'm entitled to take it personal and I'm entitled to respond to it. As you can see, I was very respectful and responded to it. At the same time, I'm also addressing what you're saying. And if you want to judge me, that's fine. Anybody's entitled to judge however they want to judge. I'm not going to somebody say, don't judge me. Only God could judge me. No, the scripture says that you can judge righteously. So why would I not allow people to judge me? See, that's the problem. People don't want to be judged. You know why? Because they're going to be held to a standard according to Torah. Nobody wants to be judged according to Torah because they believe that we're going to fall short. Expect to fall short. But the thing is, continue to strive for perfection. What is perfection? The Greek word there is mature. Strive to be mature. Allow yourself to be judged, because when you palal or pray, it's a form of judgment. So my brother, that's fine. I'm going to take it personal. And if you are judging me, that is okay. I'm not going to get emotional over that. All praise to the Most High that you're judging me right now. And I thank the Most High that I am taking it personal, because that is how I stay accountable. Do you understand? That is how I stay accountable. That's why I address what you said, and I didn't ignore it or block it. I addressed it. That is how you stay honest and accountable. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be perfect in everything I do. I strive to be blameless. I strive to do the right thing. And that's why I answer concerns like that, so I can be held accountable and I can stay humble. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and move forward. I see there's some questions that y'all are leaving up there, but let me give some information out first. If Judah is real, if he doesn't come on here to discuss the New Testament that he was bashing, then I'll open it up to Q&A and open panel, family. All right. But let me just give some information out, because I know a lot of people has been asking about some information, so I'm gonna get it. All right. Thank you so much. Look at that. My cousin looking out for me. I appreciate that, sis. It's my cousin right there. All right. Okay. So shout out to Yahuda Dawid and Vernon Mickey, Elder Vernon Mickey in the building. Thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and transition, family, and let's keep it moving. All right. So I want to go dive into the Zohar. Okay. So shout out to Sister Ebony Knowledge in the building. I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to do a lesson on Jewish mysticism, right? I think I'm going to do a lesson on Jewish mysticism and the lens of interpretation based on Jewish mysticism. But you have to read the sources that Jewish mystics read in order for you to stay in that lineage of interpretation. Okay. Now, I took about 3 years, three and a half years, and devoted myself to studying Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah, the oral tradition, and all of that for 3.5 years, that I took maybe a couple of hours out every day, read it, researched it until I fully understood it. And I saw that that wasn't my lane. What I'm doing now with y'all is my lane. Okay. So when people talk about that and say that, well, you're dogmatic because you don't see the text from a metaphysical, mystic perspective, you're entitled to that. But I can simply say to you that that is extremely relative, and anybody can come with any kind of interpretation because it's open, and it's very difficult for you to anchor yourself on common ground with people when it comes to interpretation and using external sources outside of you to verify internally and validate externally the points that you're bringing across. It's difficult for us to verify and validate what you're saying. It's difficult for us to peer review what you're saying, because every time somebody says something that goes against what you're saying, the only defense you have is, oh, that's my perspective. You can't get anywhere if everything is just your perspective. There has to be a consensus that's going to anchor the information so that people can arrive to the same conclusion outside of themselves. It's a joint effort. Okay. So again, I have no problem with brothers and sisters that delve into mysticism, the Kabbalah, you know, gematria, etc. More power to my brothers and sisters. And I always shout out my brother Zion Lex. All power to them. However, that's your lane. This is my lane. I just want people to know that when I talk to a brother and sister that delves in that, I completely understand the doctrine. I do. And I'm going to show y'all where some of this doctrine comes from when it comes to the Zohar. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to give you some history about the Zohar, right? And then after we go into the history, then we're going to dive into the Zohar. And then from there, after I expound on that, we're going to jump into cultural research methodology. And I want to show you something. I'm going to show it on my screen real quick for y'all. I'm going to throw it on my screen, and we're going to get into it in 1 second. I'm going to show y'all how I do what I do. Okay, and I'm explaining to you what you see on the screen, and then I'm gonna get into objective research methodology. All right. So I just put this together earlier today for y'all, so you can kind of get an idea of where I'm coming from. All right. Now, if you check the screen, the Metatron. Who is Metatron? He was the angelic scribe that Enoch took his place. Enoch took the place of Metatron. But where do you get the understanding of who Metatron is? I'm gonna leave that alone. See, I understand this stuff. I can bang there. You know, like I said, I strive to be a jack of all trades, right? In order for me to understand a variety of subject matters so I can dialogue with almost anybody, right? Because the objective is to bring them to understanding what my perspective is, right? Not proselytizing, but as do dialogue, as they inquire about why I take my stance, I'm able to give them an objective means as to why. Not something emotional, something personal. Objective means this is why I've come to this conclusion. And then I can walk them through the methodology. So just right here, I put this together, right? This deals with how I approach things. And again, I'm going to get into the Zohar after this and then get into research methodology so I could teach y'all how to use research methodology and then give you some examples of that to pique your interest for the classes that we got coming up. The KHM Holistic Research Paradigm. Holistic Research Paradigm is extremely important for Bible study because that, I would say, perspective is rarely ever taken when doing Bible study. It's just not. So if you check here on the screen, all right, Omar Dooley, yeah, that's another thing for another conversation, right? But we're gonna stay focused, all right? Wait, what's going on, man? So Keith Williams says he don't want to call in and discuss it like a man because he says I'm going to catch feelings. Nah, once you get on the, I talk like this, but once you get on the panel, Keith, you've been here for some time, you'll see I'm very laid back. So the link will be there, Keith, for you to come on in because not only have you made comments about that, you've made comments about stuff in the past. So yes, please, please, please get on and chat. Shout out to my brother. Y'all remember brother Dreamstar Kicks? Let me. I didn't even know he was in the chat. Shout out to my brother Dreamstar Kicks. He said, "What's good, champ? Good private conversation the other day, man to man. Salute DP." Now, family, look. This is called fruits of your labor. Okay, y'all remember Dreamstar was in there. He kept asking me about Isaiah 3. Kept going into the chat, and then he said, "Divine, you are a Israelite feminist," and I started going in right. So I told him, "Yo, hit me up." After that session was over, me and him got on the jack and we had a great build. I think my phone died. So I apologize for that Dreamstar, but we was on it for like an hour and a half. Took time out after I was tired, wanted to unwind. I took time out to talk to the brother. We talked through things. I don't know if you watched the video that I sent you. Let me know if you watched the video, Dreamstar. But the objective is when you strive for the edification of your people and you're willing to be selfless at the expense of different desires that you would like to do for the sake of building with your brothers and sisters that have a gripe with you. That's Torah. That's Torah. You get this type of rapport. So I appreciate the brother for saying that because nobody prompted him to do that. And y'all can go back to the video. We were going back and forth. The brother left this. I had a great conversation with him. I understand completely what his concern is. And I told him I will address those concerns in the time and season for it. Right. And I've done studies on those things as well, because his main concern was, brother, you got to speak about, the things that is wrong with our women in the Black community. So those women can own up to those issues like the men have to, and they can revert back to this modest lifestyle. And I agree with that brother wholeheartedly. And I told the brother, I do that. Right. However, I also mentioned to him on the flip side that a lot of times the women that hear this message are already in the truth, already know the protocol. And a lot of them surrendering leadership over to their significant other, a man. In the process of doing that, some men take advantage of that. And that is the thing that I speak to, right? That's why I'm strong about it. Not because I'm giving a pass for our sisters outside the truth to act unbecomingly. No, we don't support that. However, in the truth, the sisters that are listening to this, most of them understand the decorum and the protocol of the culture. Right? They're not out of line. They're not out of character. They know how to carry themselves. And any one of the sisters that watch this platform will be a model sister that I can point to and say, look, you can go to this, and this sister. These are the type of women that we attract to the things that we say, because we have respect for our sisters. We understand equity. We understand the egalitarian mindset. So therefore, when the man leads in strength and out of that strength is able to respect his counterpart, the woman, the one who you go to for help, Remember I went over that with y'all? That was when we went over the Hebrew. Okay. Then you'll be able to appreciate that help that you get, that the Most High has given you as a gift. So that way you will not be alone and you can accomplish the things that you set forth. Because without the woman, the feminine elements of the Most High cannot be produced through a man naturally. Now we have other kind of crosses and stuff that go on, but naturally the Most High says that the man and woman is echad. They're one. They're one. So we have to be able to respect each other's roles, right? And in doing so, we can work together as a unit. And then when the man leads respectfully and with strength, you don't have no issues from the women around you, because naturally they're inclined to submit to that type of energy. But if it's disrespectful, if it's abusive, if it's all that extra stuff, then you see if it's forceful and you get resistance, it's because you're not leading appropriately. All right. So these are things that we need to learn as a community. All right. This thing is extremely important, but these are things that will also be addressed. So I don't leave any stone unturned. However, depending upon the time of the season, I speak to things based on the time of the season. And for those of you who don't know, I address feminism in a lecture that I did on Is the Black Woman God? Go back and type in DivineProspect, Is the Black Woman God? Watch that entire lecture, and I address feminism. Vehemently, I address it in that lecture. Okay. All right. So I appreciate that, my brother Dreamstar, man. Great build, and we can talk anytime. Okay. All right. So yes, we'll be back there. We'll be back there. All right. All right. So let's go back to what we're looking on the screen. So the question is, a lot of people ask me, Divine, how do you study and what is your research method? So I try to all the time share it. So, when you have somebody like Keith Williams that's over here crying and complaining all the time, and I'm saying that playing around, but he probably gonna get in his feelings about that. What I do is that I share this information for free. I tell y'all what I do. I don't give y'all some kind of deep thing and you're like, oh man, that's deep. But somebody else already said it. Like I give you the book behind it. Say, yo, read this book. But my research, because I'm an Israelite, and a lot of the material that I read, they don't share the same vantage point or perspective or strict ideology that I do. I have to create a way in which I can objectively convey this to people outside of my paradigm, right? So what we do is, if you look on the screen at your top left, you see where it says non-material culture. That's the literature. So when you hear me say non-material culture, I'm referring to the Bible, the scriptures, okay? When I say material culture, I'm referring to archaeological finds through excavations. That means the items that was used by the people that's being spoken about in the literature, right? They left items behind. And this is why archaeologists go and dig to find these items that are left behind so they can understand how the people of the past lived, right? And this contributes to what's called social sciences, and underneath that is your anthropology, and underneath anthropology is archaeology, right? Looking at the material culture. And then we also look at living cultures. We have to look at living cultures or modern communities that have kept the customs, the cultures, and so forth that we see in both the literature and in archaeology. And what you do is you parse these things out, you amalgamate them together, and you strip it until you get a cohesive and coherent model that then can be used to reconstruct and restore that culture back to what's here in America in a format that's applicable to our contemporary societal ills that needs to be resolved. All right. I know I said a mouthful, but hopefully you guys understand. All right. What's going on? I don't know what you saying, Aharon. I sent him the link, so I sent it to him again. I don't know why he's asking for the link, but I sent him the link again. I'm looking at our messenger message on Facebook, and he sees the link. The link is there, right? The link is there, my brother. Click on the link; it's there. All right. So let's get back to this, okay? Somebody said, Donnell said his screen is blurry. It is. Yeah, it does look blurry. I don't know why that is. I don't know why it's blurry. I mean, I'm looking at it again now. It looks fine. So it'll clear up. I apologize for it. It'll clear up. All right. Shout out to Kanisha Morgan and Bill. What's going on, sis? All right. Anonymous Hebrew says, Divine always ready for the smoke. You know how we do. And we get all types of randoms that come up in here. We just deal with it. I just handle it. You feel what I'm saying? All right. So this is my methodology for reconstructing and restoration. I look at the material, the non-material culture of the literature. I look at the material culture and I look at the living culture. Now, let me get a little further into that and show you guys another hold on, that was the old one I did. Let me get the new one that I did. Where is it at? Right here. All right. So this one will be in a little bit more detail, and then I'm gonna go over to show you guys what research methodology is, okay, and the steps to take. All right, here's the other one, okay. So what I do is I look at the non-material culture of the literature, and I do an internal analysis on the text, okay, from my understanding, the tools that I have. I look at the material culture, archaeology, do an internal analysis on that, using the tools that I know to use for that, and then look at the living cultures, modern communities, and do internal analysis. At the same time, I always go outside of that and look at external scholarship sources, because there's other people that has written on these subject matters, and I need to see what the consensus is in academia as it pertains to these things that I'm researching, either in the text, material culture, or living culture. Okay. And using this as a cycle of going through these things is how I triangulate the information necessary for reconstruction and restoration. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you guys understand. Hit 1 if you're able to follow what I'm saying. If not, when I get into that portion after diving into the Zohar, then I'll bring it in a little bit more. Okay. So again, I look at the non-material culture, which is the literature of the Bible. I look at the material culture, which is archaeology, or the excavational finds, right, in the earth that was left behind by people that are spoken about in the text. So I use the text to check the archaeology, and I use the archaeology to check the text, and I find means of harmonizing that information. All right. And in order to actually see these things in operation, I have to identify living cultures that embody elements from both the material and non-material culture of the past, and that have kept it throughout the thousands of years and still maintain it today. That's why I told you about a book called Bedouin Culture in the Bible. All right, Bedouin Culture in the Bible. Shout out to my brother, Mr. E. I want you guys to go to MrE'sRemedies.com online, and please get your naturopathic items and products from this brother. He has good products, very reputable brand. Shout out to my brother Sean Fleming in the building, Mr. E. Thank you so much for the donation, King. I appreciate that. All right. And y'all may want to stop giving all those donations because you're going to get Keith upset. All right. Keith said it's messing with his high. So Keith Williams is high right now. So this is the people we're dealing with, family. All right. Keith Williams said he's high. He's messing up his high. These are the people that we're talking to. But again, I try not to be no respective persons. Okay, I try to be straight, but these are the people that we dealing with. People that get high and they come and they watch. Now, I'm not saying if you get high, there's anything wrong with that, but dang, you're gonna come on here after getting high and blow your own high. But I think you could just throw stuff in there, and that we're not gonna get on that, or we're not gonna address it, right? But this is what we're dealing with. Okay, this is what we're dealing with. I mean, hey, it is what it is. All right. So you see, I try to give this stuff, and then we got people that try to distract, but let me stay focused. All right. So this is, again, this chart is here. If anybody wants this chart, email me, kingdomharbinger@gmail.com, and I will give it to you. This will also be on the Patreon as well. All right. You can also access it through the app. All right. So make sure you guys get the app. If you haven't seen it, when this video is over, rewind and go back and check out what I said about the app. You want to get the app. Okay. That's important. All right. All right. So now, once we see this, let's go and transition into the Zohar. Let me give you some background on Zohar. And then I'm going to give you, I'll read a couple of things from the Zohar. And then from there, we're going to transition into objective research methodology. And I'm going to show you guys how I use it in order for me to get to the certain premises that I come up with when I share it here before you guys in the community. All right. Yo, Sister Shanti's crazy. Then I got high. Then I got high. Then I got high. Listen. If you want to get high, that's your business. All right. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna show you guys this. Matter of fact, check this out. Right. Look at this. Let me bring this down off the screen real quick for a second, all right? Again, just giving you resources, all right? I subscribe to Biblical Archaeology Review, all right? And I get this every quarter, I think now. It comes every quarter, all right? Now, in this one here, I think this is one. This might be an old one. I don't think this is the new one. Where's the new one at? Hold on. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Okay, my bad. That was the old one. All right. Here it is, right? See this right here? Now, since we're talking about getting high, okay, let me bring something out real quick. All right, let me bring something out real quick. I want to show this to y'all in case if y'all didn't know about it. Let me see if I can find it in here. I think this is it right here. All right. Check this out. So you can see my screen, okay? All right. This is Biblical Archaeology Review. This is the Winter 2020, Volume 46, number 5. All right. So you can see it here on the screen. All right. Now in here on page 16, it says high offerings. Some incense is higher than others. At the site of Arad in ancient Judah, archaeologists have found traces of frankincense and cannabis on 2 altars within an 8th century BCE temple. Not only is this the earliest discovery of cannabis in southwestern Asia, but it is also the earliest attestation of a hallucinogenic materials in ancient Judah. Further, it marks the first time that frankincense residue has been identified in an archaeological context within ancient Israel or Judah. The 2 altars were discovered in the mid-1960s, but archaeologists only recently conducted a residue analysis on them. Their results showed that the larger altar bore traces of frankincense mixed with animal fat. The smaller altar, however, bore traces of cannabis and animal dung. So don't think they over here getting high with this. You know, animal dung is used as a means of burning fuel, okay? But I mean, if you want to sniff animal dung with cannabis, I mean, be my guest. But anyway, so if you look in here on the screen, right, you have the larger altar here for frankincense, and you have the smaller one over here for cannabis, right? And it's in this context right here. This was like the altar area right here. Now, this is the temple excavation that was found at Tel Arad. Some people think that it is Jerusalem, and the original Jerusalem that we have there today in Israel is not the real Jerusalem, but Tel Arad is Jerusalem. Tel Arad, from my position, is not Jerusalem because there's other elements that are missing from Tel Arad that we find in excavations in and around Jerusalem, okay? However, just so you can see, cannabis was found on that altar. Now, we don't know why that's there because there's no mention of cannabis in the scriptures, all right? Some people say, oh, allude to a verse in Isaiah or somewhere else. It's not there in the text. You can make an allusion to it, but it's just not there in the text. So all I'm saying is the purpose as to why they were burning these items there, we don't know, okay? It could have been for an aroma. It could have been to ward off other entities. We just don't know because there's no epigraphs or no astrakhan letters that was left behind detailing why that was used. Now, we have frankincense in the text, so we know why frankincense was used. But even during this time period with this excavation, we don't know if this was something that was being done after the original inhabitants or the people who created it and stayed there had left and another group came. We just don't know. However, we know that it was an altar, and we know that animal dung mixed with cannabis was being used. So if anybody wants to refer to using cannabis and use justification in the material culture for it, okay, make sure you mix it with animal dung. All right, I'm just saying. Make sure you mix it with animal dung, and make sure you have a little altar, because you know altar is there for sacrifice, right, for offerings, right? Make sure you have an altar in your home, your backyard, or somewhere else that you're burning this animal dung and this cannabis along with each other for this as well. And don't forget the frankincense. All right. Now, certain applications of certain fragrances or incense was only to be used by the Kohanim or the priest. All right. But now that the priesthood is gone and there's no more temple, these things can now still be used amongst the laity or the common men, right? Because now we are the priests. The Most High says this in Exodus chapter 19. Matter of fact, let's get the scripture. All right. Exodus 19. All right. In verse 6 says, verse 5 says, now if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you will be my treasured possession out of all the nations, for the whole earth is mine, and unto me you shall be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you are to speak to the Israelites, not to the priests. So a time was going to come where the Israel was being prepped to be priests, because once we had the subduing of the Levites and the temple, now the priesthood element gets shifted to all Israelites. So certain things that was only restricted to the priest, now we can do, we can perform. And a lot of us do it underneath a different concurrent priesthood called the Melchizedek order. Okay. But again, it's in this book if you want to read the rest of the details on it in regards to cannabis. All right. And the uses of cannabis. All right. So I'm just bringing it up because I'm being objective. I don't smoke weed. I used to when I was younger. I used to smoke it and do other things in it. I'm not going to say. But anyway, I had the nickname Hydro, was one of my nicknames when I was growing up. But I stopped, I think I was 22 when I stopped. So we're talking about almost 15 years. It's been since I've delved into that. All right. 15, 16, about 15 years, I believe. All right. However, if that's your cup of tea, that's your business. All right. Just don't impose on anybody. And if you're going to use scriptural backing for it, there's no evidence directly in the text that condones the usage of cannabis. And there's nothing in the text that not only condones it, but that says it's against the law. It's not there. So we don't have it there in the text. So there's no for or against. It's like I said, it's your personal preference. If that's what you want to do, some people do it for medicinal purposes. Now, matter of fact, let me show you guys this real quick. Check this out. All right, let me show you this. All right. Check this out. Watch this. All right. I don't know if y'all were aware of this. You see this here? It says House passes landmark bill decriminalizing marijuana. The House passed sweeping legislation that would decriminalize marijuana and expunge non-violent marijuana-related convictions, you know, because they got a lot of our people in prison because of marijuana possession. The measure is all but doomed in a Republican-led Senate. So the House says yes, Republican says no. But again, this is revolutionary because this has never been done in U.S. history before. Okay, so I'm just putting y'all onto things that are current developments as well. All right. Now, just because the House passes it doesn't mean it's going to get anywhere. You need the Senate. So we'll see where it goes. Okay. So that's me being objective, because even though I don't do it, I'm not going to condemn somebody else for doing it, especially if there's no law against it. Okay. So that's your business. But for the brother to come in here and say that his high is getting messed up because he's asking questions and I'm addressing him, we know who we're dealing with now. Okay. Because if I was getting high, I wouldn't be in here commenting on anything. I would just enjoy my high. Like, why would you want to blow your own high? Doesn't make sense. Back to the Zohar. All right. So let's get the information so we can look into the Zohar and get some information on it. So let me bring it up to y'all so y'all can see. All right. Check out my screen. And it doesn't look like the brother's going to join. So I don't know what's going on. I have no clue, but it is what it is. Okay. All right. So this is from the Jewish Virtual Library, a project of AICE Kabbalah, the Zohar. Right. And we're going to get a brief background on it. All right. The Zohar, which means splendor, right? You have your Zayin, your Chulam, your Hey, your Patah, and your Resh, right? Zohar, right? Is widely considered the most important work of Kabbalah or Jewish mysticism, because there's other works that are written on what's called Jewish mysticism, okay? But this is like the central one. This is like the go-to. It is a mystical commentary, keyword, mystical commentary on the Torah. Just like if you go and you read the book of Jubilees, that was also a commentary on the scriptures as well. Okay. It says written in medieval Aramaic and medieval Hebrew. Now, that is extremely important because any version of the Zohar that you get, the reason why we do textual criticism is because we look for styles and we look for chronology by means of writing styles that are contemporary during that period of time. So we know what medieval Aramaic and medieval Hebrew is. Okay, we know what that looks like, and this is what this is written in. So nobody can say, oh, I got the version that goes back to 1st century CE Palestine, because then you'd have to show me that text. And through my analysis of the text, I can tell, wait, that's not written in 1st century CE Palestinian Hebrew or Palestinian Aramaic. That's medieval Hebrew and Aramaic. How do I know? Check out other contemporary works at that time and see how the style is similar. But oral tradition says it goes back further than that. The difficulty is being able to validate the oral tradition, because if it shows up in the medieval time and we don't have anything or contemporary to the time where it says it was attested, we cannot fact check the transmission accuracy of that oral tradition, because we need some kind of reference in order to check it. Now, remember I told y'all, we went to a source from 600 BCE in regards to Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 26, which is called the Aaronic blessing. And then I showed you the Masoretic text, the Leningrad Codex from 1000 BCE. And I showed you 1600 years from one form to another. There's slight textual variations. However, the majority is cohesive, which means the transmission accuracy of blessings that we find in the text, we know that we can use this as a model example to validate the accuracy of the transmission rate from one point of time to another point in time. All right? That's important when you do your research, okay? It contains a mystical discussion of the nature of God, the origin and structure of the universe, the nature of soul, sin, redemption, good and evil, and related topics. The Zohar is not one book, but a group of books. These books include scriptural interpretations, as well as material on theosophic. Theos, or theo, means God. Sophic comes from Sophia, the wisdom of God. Theosophic, theology, mythical cosmogony, mystical psychology, and what some will call anthropology. So, when I was speaking to the sister, Ebony Knowledge, and she made the comment about me being dogmatic because she says I'm too literal. What she's saying is that, brother, you're at the Peshat level. I'm over here dealing with the Sud level. Wait a second. Where you get in the Sud level of understanding? This is why I tap on the Zohar. Now, the Zohar is not the only mystical book by Judeans in Europe or in Babylon. We have others, right? This is just the big daddy of them, the grandfather of them. Right? So when you read this, you'll see the lens in which they interpret certain passages, because it's a commentary that gives you, that attempts to give you the Sud level. Remember I told you what the Sud level, the deep esoteric meaning, and it pulls out that meaning through what means, what justification is the authors allowed to do so. They say, oh, it's because there's oral tradition that goes back to the time of Moshe. Just like they say that the rulings from the Mishnah is ruled based on an interpretive method that comes from the oral tradition that they claim goes back to Moshe. However, academia traces rudimentary elements of what's called the Zohar, possibly back to the 1st century CE. However, we don't know the transmission rate, and we don't know how much was preserved, because when you have different developments in regards to a language, where I give you an example. If you have Old English, Middle English, Late English, and then Modern English, all right? And let's say I'm speaking about Beowulf, which is written in Old English, right? One of the earliest works of Old English. Let's say I'm reading Beowulf, and somebody tells me the story of Beowulf, but I write it down in modern times. Let's say we don't have the Old English available anymore. When I write it, I'm going to write it within the contemporary language that I know it in. Okay, so even though it may go back to that early edition, however, by the way that I write in modern times and contemporary works, because people are educated based on, even scribes are educated based on what's being taught during that period of time, unless they are historian and they're able to read liturgical works like liturgical Hebrew that was preserved and are able to understand that and then write biblical Hebrew, which they could have done, or even Mishnaic Hebrew, which would have been good as well to trace it back early, but that wasn't done, right? So I'm going to get into a little bit of this as you follow me, and we're going to understand the source of this, okay? So I say that to say that in looking at this interpretive method, right, or methodology, when people start to make certain claims about things they read about the text, the Zohar is one means of interpreting these things. It's one means of giving you insight to the author's interpretation of the text. The same thing that the Book of Jubilees does amongst the Qumran community. Now we have this amongst the Jewish mysticist community. All right, a way of interpreting the text. The oral tradition also gives you another way of interpreting the text. And out of the oral tradition and the written text, you're able to create what's called the halakha, which merges the two and shows you how to explicitly apply the implicit things coming from the oral tradition and coming from the written tradition. Okay, because at one point, the written tradition was once oral. Okay, that's my position. Right? The narrative that we see in the Chumash, the first 5 books, the narrative written there comes much later. However, the statute, laws, and commandments, the songs, and the blessings all predate the narrative. And what I'm working on now is a new study. I'm gonna just reveal it to y'all, where I propose that the reconstruction of the narrative of the oral tradition from what happened in the wilderness can be done through the works that are written in every text from Judges all the way to Malachi. So think about it, right? The time period, well, I say Judges, but let's go to Samuel. Let's do 1 Samuel. So from 1 Samuel to Malachi, that includes Proverbs, Psalms, right? The Ketubim, the writings as well, the prophets and all of that. All the references that are made to what happened in the wilderness or the oral traditions. So what they do is through the social memory, which means that as a group, you remember more things than one single person. The social memory of the people preserves the oral tradition that now, once you have professionally attested scribes within the royal court, they are now putting down or laying down the narrative aspect to the thing they found. Because, during the time of Josiah, they found a book of the law. So, oh, man, we didn't do these things in the book. They just found the book of the law. What was that book that they found? Well, it contained the statute, law, the commandments, because it was to be what? Remember, I told y'all, a witness against. Just like the song was a witness against, the book of the law was written and placed in the side of the Ark of the Covenant, be a witness against the Israelites. Because now, if you go back prophetically, it was speaking during the time period that Israel will go into decay because of all these unrighteous kings. And now the priesthood that was going in alignment with these kings that are bringing Israel into degradation and they'll straying them away from the Most High, that at one point that now when they read this book, it will bring into remembrance, because the word for male in Hebrew, Zohar, goes back to the word Zohar, which means to remember. Now the male, that's why the male is there to lead, because his job is to remember these things, has found the book. Oh, we didn't do these statutes, laws, commandments. Wow, we need to go and do this thing. So they started to apply the things that were in there. So in this thing that I propose is that the oral tradition is preserved, and from 1 Samuel to Malachi, all the references to the wilderness, Moses, and everything like that is the oral tradition that the people preserved. Now, by the time we get to the time of the royal courts and to exile, now you have this reconstruction that's going into the narrative of the Chumash, or the first 5 books. So they had the book of the law, right? The statute, laws, and commandments, and they had other things. However, there was also books that were lost. Now, the text tells us about, isn't this written in the book of so-and-so, so-and-so? We don't have a lot of those books at all. Even the book of Jasher that's referenced in the text, the version we have today, guess what kind of language is written in? It's not written during that time period. It's not even written in biblical Hebrew. But that's something altogether. I'm not going to deal with textual criticism on the book of Jasher now. I'm just putting you onto game, giving you some information. So I'm trying to show you how this works. So from 1 Samuel to Malachi, as a compendium of works, right? We take the litany of information in there that pertains to the wilderness, wilderness, the Exodus, and so forth, and you use that as a template to construct the narrative that we find today in the Chumash, and you sprinkle in there blessings, you sprinkle in there prayers, you sprinkle in there songs, and then you sprinkle in there the statute, laws, commandments, and now you have something that has now, once it's been established, now being redacted over time and finalized during the post-exilic period. Okay, so even looking at the canon of what we call the Tanakh, or the Hebrew Bible, nobody knows when that was laid down. We don't know at what point Some people say the Council of Jamnia is when it's done. You can't prove that. That's speculation, right? But nonetheless, these books were accepted as canon by contemporary writers of the time period. So I'm just showing you methodology of reconstruction, all right? So when we look at what's called the oral tradition, or some people say that Kabbalah, being the Sud level of interpretation, is part of the oral tradition as well, and it was preserved by somebody much earlier than the time period in which we can see the text was written. We have to look at this transmission rate and see how accurate it is, okay? And I was able to demonstrate that with the written text by looking at things that were more obscure. Matter of fact, even going into the Yavne Yam Astrakhan and the statute about not keeping, so an employer cannot keep an employee's, I would say his cloak after the sun sets. He must give it back to him. Now, he can keep it during the day while he's working to meet the quota, but once nightfall hits, once we transition into that twilight period, then he has to return it back to him so he's not sleeping at night in the cold, okay? And then the Yavne Yam Astrakhan is an appeal that an employee made about an employer who took his cloak because he did not meet the quota and would not give it back to him. That was predicated on a statute that was existent at that time period, which means we can showcase the reference from this Astrakhan and line it up to a statute that we find in the Torah to say that the transmission accuracy, line for line, of this particular case where we can extract the principle is perfectly preserved in the Torah. There's plenty of ways in which we can do that. Okay. So I don't know what y'all saying in there. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just not looking at it. All right. All right. So I'm saying this to say we have to understand these texts, the provenance or the origin of these texts, the ideology behind it, etc. So let's keep going. Let me read this to you. Let's keep going so we can move forward because I want to get into it. All right. So according to Gershom Scholem, right, he was a German Israeli historian and Kabbalist, right? Kabbalist, right? All right. Let me go into it. Hold on. Let me bring it up. There we go. Whoops. Here it is. All right. Most of the Zohar was written in an exalted style of Aramaic because it's written in Aramaic. However, you do find biblical Hebrew in it, and I'm going to show it to you, okay? That was spoken in Palestine during the 2nd century of the modern era. The Zohar first appeared in Spain in the 13th century and was published by a Jewish writer by the name of Moshe ben Shem Tov de Leon. He ascribed this work to a rabbi of the 2nd century, Simeon ben Yochai. Jewish historiography holds that during the time of Roman persecution, Rabbi Simeon hid in a cave for 13 years studying the Torah, 5 books of Moshe, with his son Eleazar. During this time, he is said to have been inspired by God to write the Zohar. So this is one man's interpretation of the text. That doesn't make it binding, okay? That doesn't make it binding in a sense where everybody got to subscribe to this interpretation. This is a self-professed claim. Okay, but let's keep reading. The fact that the Zohar was found by one lone individual, Moshe de Leon, taken together with the circumstance that it refers to historical events of the post-Talmudic period, caused the authenticity of the work to be questioned from the outset. There is a story about how after the death of Moshe de Leon, a rich man of Avila named Yosef offered the widow who had been left without means a large sum of money for the original from which her husband had made the copy, and she then confessed that her husband himself was the author of the work. She had asked him several times, she said, why he had chosen to credit his own teachings to another, and he had always answered that doctrines put into the mouth of the miracle working Simeon ben Yochai. I don't know if you know who that is. Miracle working is the key word. That's very deep. I may touch on him later. I was waiting for that for my discussion with the brother, but it looks like Judah is back, is not going to join us on tonight. Okay. Would be a rich source of profit. Incredible as the story seems, it at least proves that shortly after its appearance, the work was believed by some to have been written entirely by Moshe de Leon. Okay. Then we have some people that talk about the acceptance of authenticity, right? There's some people that reject its authenticity. I'm not going to get into that. All right. Here I'm going to read about mysticism and pardes or biblical exegesis. That's important because that was what I was touching on the other day. When people say I'm too dogmatic because I have a level of peshat. So when somebody says that, oh, you're dogmatic. Why? Because you have a literal understanding that's not true. But when they say stuff like that, I know what they're saying and alluding to. You're saying, oh, I'm just dealing with the Bashat level. Okay, well, if I get into the Sud level, I can give you all types of wild interpretation of the text subjectively, right? However, if your interpretation is structured based on a Zohar and other Jewish mystic works, then you need to put that on the table first before you tell people this is my perspective. Let us see the sources you're working with. How do you justify the lens of interpretation or the lens in which you can provide commentary on what you're reading into the text? It's called eisegesis. Because technically you're eisegeting the text. You're reading into the text, not extracting or pulling it out. You think you are. You're reading into it because that interpretation comes by a person that we know, Simeon ben Yochai, and it's believed that he's the one, after 13 years in a cave, the Most High revealed to him the metaphysical understanding of the text and given him the Sud layer. How are we able to test that theory? How are we able to verify and validate that what it is that he provided during that time period in which it said that he constructed it, that his peers actually verified that and it was validated, and that we have something that was laid down and left behind, but we don't have that, right? That was left behind. Okay, we don't have it. This thing doesn't show up until much later on in Spain during the medieval time. So the Zohar assumes, matter of fact, let me go into mysticism, excuse me. Woe unto the man, says Simeon ben Yochai, who asserts that this Torah intends to relate only commonplace things and secular narratives. So that's somebody saying, you too literal, divine. Nah, it's not. I'm giving you some deep stuff if you follow me. But let's keep going. I'm showing you where this mindset is coming from. For if this were so, then in the present times, likewise, a Torah might be written with more attractive narratives. In truth, however, the matter is thus: the upper world and the lower are established upon one and the same principle. And the lower world is Israel, and the upper world are angels. Follow me. When you hear people use this type of verbiage, this is where it comes from. When the angels wish to descend to the lower world, they have to don earthly garments. If this be true of the angels, how much more so of the Torah, for whose sake indeed the world and the angels were alike created and exist. The world could simply not have endured to look upon it. Now the narratives of the Torah are its garments. He who thinks that these garments are the Torah itself deserves to perish and have no share in the world to come. So some of my metaphysical Israelites may be looking at me and say, this divine, he needs to perish. How? If you understand my methodology, you know, I'm looking at the language, I'm looking at the custom and culture within its historical context, I'm looking at sister languages, sister cultures. This is how we reconstruct this thing, right? We go into the literature, we go into the archaeological and things left behind, look at living cultures, and we use this to reconstruct and restore. This is what we do. Our objective is to reconstruct and restore the pre-exilic Israelite culture prior to exile. And there's a reason why we take that approach. All right, let's keep going. Woe unto the fools who look no further when they see an elegant robe. More valuable than the garment is the body which carries it, and more valuable even than that is the soul which animates the body. Fools see only the garment of the Torah. The more intelligent see the body. The wise see the soul, its proper being. And in the Messianic time, the upper soul of Torah will stand revealed. In the Messianic time, that is their eschatological worldview, that at some point in time, when this righteous branch comes on the scene, that he's going to reveal these things, right? That the things that we're talking about in the Zohar, that when the Messiah comes on the scene, it will be revealed that the things that's being said is true. You can't really understand the Messiah of the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, or the Old Testament unless you have this metaphysical interpretation or sud layer of understanding the text. These are the claims. I fully understand these claims. I know that angle. I just choose not to take it because it's not my cup of tea. But let's go into the next part, which I think is important. Pardes, which I told you, Pardes is like the word Tanakh. Tanakh is not a real Hebrew word. It's acronyms that are placed together and forms a word. Same thing with Pardes, right? It's put together to form a word, right? So you have your Peh, your Resh, your Dalit or Dalet, and then you have your Shin, okay? Your Pardes. The Zohar assumes four kinds of biblical exegesis: Peshat, literal meaning; Remez, the allusion; Darash, the anagogical; and Sud, the mystic. The initial letters of the word Peshat, Remez, Darash, and Sud form together the word Pardes, or paradise, which became the designation for the fourfold meaning of which the mystical sense is the highest part, the Sud level. The mystic algorithm is based by the Zohar on the principle that all visible things, the phenomena of nature included, have besides their esoteric reality and esoteric reality also, destined to instruct man in that which is invisible. Now, what is the interpretative lens of looking at the esoteric and determining what the esoteric meaning is? Is it subjective? Yes, it brings you into the world of subjective understanding of anything, right? Now, if that's your religion or your doctrine, okay. However, I like to deal with things that can be peer reviewed, that can be verified and validated, so that way there's a common ground and consensus on how to move forward. Because if everybody gives their own personal belief on something, then you'll never have a consensus. Unless somebody puts something forth, they're a respected teacher, they lay it down, and everybody agree on that mystical means of interpreting the text. And this is what the Zohar provides for people who deals with the metaphysical aspect of interpreting the scriptures. All right. This principle is the necessary corollary of the fundamental doctrine of Zohar, the universe being, according to that doctrine, a gradation of emanations. It follows that the human mind may recognize in each effect the supreme mark and thus ascend to the cause of all causes, right? So in order for you to get to where the causal agent of creation is at, you need the Zohar, because this is what the causal agent has inscribed for the initiates to look beyond the garments of the Torah and look into the soul of the Torah. See, I could teach this all day and give you the understanding, but let's keep going. The ascension, well, let's keep going. The ascension, however, can only be made gradually after the mind has attained 4 various stages of knowledge, namely the knowledge of the exterior aspect of things, or as the Zohar calls it, the vision through the mirror that projects an indirect light. I wish I had time. I'm gonna do a whole lesson on this. The knowledge of the essence of things, or the vision through the mirror that projects a direct light, and the knowledge through intuitive representation, and the knowledge through love, since the law reveals its secrets to those only who love it. Devarim chapter 6 goes into that. All right. These words: be there as you wake and go to sleep, as you go and as you come. Write these things on the doorpost. That's where the tradition of the mezuzah comes from. All right. After the knowledge through love comes the ecstatic state, which is applied to the most holy visions. To enter the state of ecstasy, one has to remain motionless with the hand between the knees, absorbed into contemplation and murmuring prayers. Remember meditation, I told you, is musing over your murmurs to melodies. Musing over your murmurs to melodies. That is meditation. And hymns. There were 7 ecstatic stages, each of which was marked by a vision of a different color. This is where we get Seraphot at. But we're going to get in. I might touch on that, I may not. At each stage, the contemplative entered a heavenly hall, a hekal, of a different hue until he reached the 7th, which was colorless, and the appearance of which marked both the end of the contemplation and his lapse into unconsciousness. The Zohar gives the following illustration of an ecstatic state. Okay? So this is where you see people start to align this, what we find in Hinduism, you know, the different chakras and so forth. This is what people say, well, this is the hidden knowledge that all religions contain, but only the initiates who are able to see past the clothing and get in tune with the soul, the nefesh of the message, can only be the ones that can ascend to the Creator. And the only way to do this is this method of meditation. I know all of this stuff. I understand this stuff. I practiced it. It wasn't my cup of tea. What I'm doing now, I believe, is more concrete, and it gives you more insight and more inspiration to build. See, this is good if you self-reflection. All right. I transition from that and say, okay, let's build. Because I think there's enough essence in the text that you can get that self-reflection. All you gotta do is read Psalms and Proverbs. You get enough self-reflection. But what is going to inspire you to build? If I read this, is this going to inspire me to build a community, build a nation? Is it going to do that? For me, it hasn't. So that's why I veered away from it, right? Check this out. Once, says R. Simeon ben Yochai, I was plunged into a contemplative ecstasy, and I beheld a sublime ray of brilliant light which illuminated 325 circles, and amid which something dark was bathing. Then the dark point, becoming bright, began to float towards the deep and sublime sea, where all the splendors were gathering. I then asked the meaning of this vision, and I was answered that it represented the forgiveness of sins. All right. Now, let me see where I want to go to. I'm gonna stop there. All right. So this gives you enough understanding. Okay. If you want to go into the effects of Judaism, the Zohar was lauded by many rabbis because it opposed religious formalism, stimulated one's imagination and emotions, and for many helped reinvigorate the experience of prayer. Now, again, I have a whole lecture that is scheduled next year that I'm gonna do on prayer. That's important. Okay. In many places, prayer had become a mere external religious exercise, which I agree. But my reconstructive methodology for restoring what proper prayer is, you don't need to use the lens of the Zohar in order to understand how to properly pray. I talked about formulate prayer and all that other stuff. I told you it's prosukma, palau. I explained those things based on the language that exemplifies what it is. And then we use the context in which those words are used to understand what is going on. And then you take that formula and you apply it, add in the variables of your own life, and it should equal out the desired result. Okay? So in many places, prayer become an external religious exercise, while prayer was supposed to be a means of transcending earthly affairs and placing oneself in union with the Most High. The Zohar was censored by many rabbis because it propagated many superstitious beliefs and produced a host of mystical dreamers whose overheated imaginations peopled the world with spirits, demons, and all kinds of good and bad influences. Many classical rabbis, especially Maimonides, viewed all such beliefs as a violation of Judaism's principles of faith. Now, I'm not even going to get into that. No, Ramban and the Zohar. Y'all can do your research on that. Its mystic mode of explaining some commandments, check this out, was applied by its commentators to all religious observances and produced a strong tendency to substitute a mystic Judaism in the place of traditional rabbinic Judaism. Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath, began to be looked upon as the embodiment of God in temporal life, and every ceremony performed on that day was considered to have an influence upon the superior world. Elements of the Zohar crept into the liturgy of the 16th and 17th centuries, and the religious poets not only used in their compositions the allegorism and symbolism of the Zohar, but even adopted its style, e.g. the use of erotic terminology to illustrate the relationships between man and God. Thus, in the language of some Jewish poets, the beloved one's curls indicate the mysteries of the deity, sensuous pleasures, and especially intoxication typify the highest degree of divine love as ecstatic contemplation, while the wine room represents merely the state through which the human qualities merge or exalted into those of God. So that intimate relationship that the statute of commandments is supposed to dictate for you, they're saying that's a veil that when you remove it, right, there's really this illusion or allegorical interpretation of the relationship between God and man, like man is the bride, mankind is the bride, and God is the bride, and into that intertwining, through that union of intertwining, it says that it becomes intoxifying. It's equal to a sensuous pleasure, and that brings you to the highest degree of divine love. It brings you to an ecstatic state, a state of ecstasy, where you're just in this unhindered, linear viewing in regards to your intimacy or your yada essence of loving the Creator. Now that's what's taught in Zohar. Like I can teach that for hours, for months, for years. It's not my cup of tea. I found another way through the culture, through the language and the culture, that we can restore this type of relationship, right? Now some people say, oh, you just at the Peshat level. You have the literal. No, I don't have the literal. I don't have the literal. You know who has strictly literal? The religious folk. They can't see the depth. But again, I understand this, okay? So let's get into the Zohar itself. I'm going to show you my Zohar on the screen. All right, give me a second. Again, I didn't see anything that you may have put in there. But again, I just simply want to show you what this is about. So when you hear people teach on it, you know the source, the interpretative lens in which they view the text and how they commentate on the things that's going in text. It's pretty much a mystical commentary of the Torah, all right, and even the other parts of the Tanakh, all right? That's not my cup of tea. But what I do when I share this is show you guys that I know how to teach this stuff. I understand it, okay? I can do it. I just choose not to. So don't ever mistake because I'm taking one approach that I'm ignorant of other approaches. All right. So check out this Zohar, my Zohar right here. Right. Here's my Zohar. Okay. This is 3,782 pages. Okay. This will be, oh, my bad. This will be on the Patreon when we're done. Okay. Now, this is written in medieval Aramaic, which I don't know medieval Aramaic like that. And I'm not going to front like I know medieval Aramaic. I just don't. However, there's lines in here of biblical Hebrew that I can read, that I can parse, and I do understand. But I don't know a lot of medieval Aramaic. I know some biblical Aramaic, right? But I don't know a lot of medieval Aramaic, and I'm not going to front like I do, right? However, I'm able to identify certain words by knowing some biblical Aramaic, right? So I can go back and I can kind of verify, right? But I'm not an expert in medieval Aramaic, and I'm not going to front like I am. All right. Now, if I was at a higher degree of understanding biblical Aramaic, then I could probably make my way further through the Aramaic. But I want to learn medieval Aramaic so I can read and translate this myself. I can read it, parse it, and then translate it myself to align it with whatever translations that are there. But I'm not going to front like I'm going to do that for you right now. That's just not going to happen. It's going to take some time to do that, okay? But I want to show you something in this Zohar. I want to show you something very interesting in the Zohar that I pulled out the other day, because when you take time to read this, and I read all of it, I don't remember everything. I remember a lot. However, when I hear somebody teach something, I say, oh, that's from the Zohar. That's where you're getting that from. I know the source. When I hear people teach in this community, we have tons of leaders in the community, a lot of great minds in the community. A lot of times they teach something, I say, oh, I know where that's from. You know why? Because I fact check everything. Somebody referenced something, I go back and research. I find the provenance of it. Who was the first person that was teaching it, and what time period, what was the historical context, what was the political context, what was the religious context, all of that. And I can say, oh, that's where it comes from. So when people start saying things that's in the Quran, that was found in the Quran caves, I said, oh, they got that from so-and-so, so-and-so. And you know what I do after that? I share the source with the community. Here you go. So you can fact check the people that's teaching this stuff based on the source that permeates the things that they're saying and what they're teaching. You can fact check. That's important. We have to have a means of fact checking our leaders. So when I hear certain things, I say, oh, I know that's from the Zohar. Okay. So that's why last week when I was talking to Sister Ebony Knowledge and she told me that I had a literal understanding, I said, okay, I know where you're getting at. She said her perspective is metaphysical. Shout out to Sister Ebony Knowledge, right? So I start to see these things and I'm like, oh, okay, I know what she's talking about because I've read that before. I know where you're getting at with it. So I started, and that's why I brought up Lilith. I brought Lilith up because I wanted to see if her interpretative lens, which is the Zohar, can explain that. Maybe she hasn't read all 3,782 pages like I have. I don't know. This is a huge volume. I don't know if she's read it. But I read enough of it and I memorize a good amount so that when I hear something or I can test somebody, say, okay, you saying that you have a metaphysical understanding. All right, give them a random verse and say, please interpret that for me. And based on how they interpret it, I know the commentary comes from. It gets so bad that when I see some Christian apologists interpret things in the text, I've read the church fathers and I've read modern commentaries. I know where they're getting that from. I said, oh, you teach an original sin doctrine that Augustine brought to the forefront. You teach an Augustinian doctrine. I know where you got that from. Maybe they may be unaware of it because some teacher of a teacher has said it and never provided the source. By the time it got to them, it's like 4th, 5th, 6th hand. So now they over here telling me, oh, you don't understand the metaphysical. And I'm like, well, okay, if I don't understand it, read this and give me your sud level, your esoteric explanation of it. They draw it out, they lay it out, and I said, oh, I know where you got that from. Here's the source. It's written right here verbatim. This is where it comes from. Now, whether you was aware of it or not, this is the source. So maybe you shouldn't say that to me, because now check this out. I'm going to pull out another random verse, and I'm going to give you the Zohar interpretation of that and the reasoning for that, and why we need to take this metaphysical approach so we can see past the garment, get into an ecstatic relationship with the soul of the creator, because it's believed that the creator has a soul too, that is a spark for all the souls that we have today. When he breathed life into Adam in the Nefesh, he became a living soul. He took a portion of himself through the Ruach, a portion of himself, and put it into man. So now man has to use that essence in order to connect with the creator, and it's a intimate relationship process. So the things that you read on the surface gives you hints and clues, because that's the second layer of interpretation, the Remez layer. And then once you get the allegorical or hinting, it leads you to the Daresh level, and then that leads you deeper into the Sid level when you start to actualize the things that you're reading from a metaphysical perspective of connecting yourself with the divine spark of all things. I can teach this for days. I know this science. It's just not my cup of tea. But let's get into what I was talking about as far as Lilith is concerned. All right, let's go into Lilith. All right, I'm gonna bring it up here for you. All right, let me get it. I gotta go through these pages here. It's 3,782 pages. So give me a moment. Let me go ahead and find it for y'all. Again, I don't know what you're saying in the chat. So yes, Chester Sweeney, same thing with Gnosticism. I know what Christian Gnosticism is, just like I know what Christian mysticism is. Matter of fact, there was another section that I didn't read that showed you the Zohar's influence on Christian mysticism. That's another thing altogether. I'll probably bring it out in the future, so that way y'all can understand, the stuff that sometimes, when your boy Lex Vortex comes in here and he got on here talking about Christian mysticism, so all the stuff he's saying, there's sources that say the same thing he just said. And those initiates, or people who are self-professed initiates, will tell you, well, you have a literal understanding. You don't understand it. And then when you say, okay, true, check this. You flip the script on them. They're like, oh, yeah, you do know. Yeah, I do know all of that, but it's not going to help me build a nation. So I'd rather revert back to the things that's going to help me build a nation. All right. That's what you do in your own personal closet with your relationship with the creator. I'm out here trying to build a community. So we got two different agendas. All right. Black Av, you funny, man. Omar Dooley, I told you I spent about 3.5 years going into this, dedicated myself almost every day to reading from the Zohar and understanding it and other forms of Jewish mysticism. And I went into Gnosticism, right? The Nag Hammadi library. I went and read all of that as well. You can get access to that online too. On the Patreon, we give those sources, right? So my objective as a teacher is to give you all the things that are circulated in the community, whether you're aware of it or not, to go back and fact check people that use things. So when people say, Divine, you don't understand anything about this, the intimacy with the creator and the soul and flesh and all of that, I'm like, oh, no, I don't. Wait, hold on. Give me a second. Hold my beer. Let me stop. You know the hold my beer mean? Hold my beer. And then you see me put on a different clothes on, and then I start giving it up. But again, that is not what I'm here to teach. Right? I just want y'all to understand that I understand that. Right? So don't excuse what I'm doing as ignorance. Please don't. All right? All right, so let me get it. All right, so let me find my passage, because what I want to show y'all is, that doctrine about the serpent having sex with Eve and giving birth to Cain. Yeah, where do you think that came from? The Zohar. Okay, so check this out. Let me show it to y'all. All right, let me show it to you. Again, these are a lot of doctrines that circulate in the community, and people just think that it's some kind of revelation they got. And I'm like, no, that came from the Zohar. No, that came from the Nag Hammadi library. No, that came from this. It came from the Geniza Cairo manuscripts. No, it came from that. I can tell you where all of these things are coming from. All right. No, he's not Yah. He's being used by Yah. He's being used by Yah. Shout out to my brother Jordan's Cadet for the donation. I appreciate that. And the brother Mark Moore says, if the arm of Yah infused with Christ, the arm is the spirit, the hand, like it's a puppet. Yeshua is the puppet. So if I take a puppet, a hand puppet, and put my hand in there and do stuff with it, is the puppet me? No, me and the puppet are not the same. I am controlling the puppet. I am using the puppet to accomplish what I want it to do. We're not the same thing. One drives, animates, and controls the other. You understand? Then this is okay. All right, so let's get into this. All right, let me get into this. All right, let me show it to you on my screen. Let me show you where these doctrines come from. Okay. All right, now check this out. Okay. Matter of fact, let's go up. Check this out. All right, now this is 203. We're looking at the volume. Go to 203, and it says, "And Adam and his wife sinned, and the serpent had intercourse with Eve and injected filth into her. Eve bore Cain. He had the shape from above and from below, and the secret of the filth of the other side, and from the side below of the external forces." Again, this is dualism showing up in this kind of mindset. So you got to see the development of these things. This is why I'm able to trace a lot of these oral traditions back to the return from exile during the Zerubbabel, Nehemiah, and Ezra time period, because that's when Zoroastrianism was prominent, right? Because you had some of the Persian kings that did subscribe to Zoroastrianism, and it rubbed shoulders with Judaism, Second Temple Judaism, that was developing at that time, and dualism from Zoroastrianism found its way into Second Temple Judaism, and now we see the residue of it showing up here in the Zohar. See, this is when you parse through everything and get back to the provenance of things. You can start pointing fingers and show people where these things come from, make these connections. Am I saying that's right or wrong? That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply showing you the source of these things. Now it says, "Therefore, he was the first to bring death into the world, caused by his side, as he came of the filth of the serpent. The nature of the serpent is to lurk so as to kill, and his issue Cain learned his ways. And so it is written, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. Bereshit 4:8." Okay. I have found in ancient books that when Cain killed Abel, he bit serpentine bites until he killed him. Are you following this? He bit him. Cain bit him like a serpent until he died, because he was half serpent, half man. You know those lizard people theories that David Icke and them come up with? Yeah, this is where you're seeing them at. This is where you're seeing them at. Okay. Thank you, Anonymous Hebrew. Facts. You just broke it down for him. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Anonymous. You got it, man. You got it. All right. Okay. So now let's go back to the text. Let me show you. Let's see what the text says. All right. Check this out. Let me bring up the scriptures real quick. All right. All right. Check this out. Now, let me show this to y'all real quick so you guys can see that. All right. This is why I have an issue with the Zohar, because it's adding its own color to the text, its own color commentary to the text, based on Simeon, that we just saw, Simeon, that he conceived while in a cave for 13 years, that God spoke to him and gave him this interpretation of the text. That's not binding to me. Okay. That's not binding. But check this out. Let me show you what the scriptures say. The written tradition. It says, Genesis, Bereshit 4:1, "And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, I've gotten a man from Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh." Now, several things we're looking at here. Okay, check this out. Right? Ve ha-Adam, and the man yada it Hawa. So it says, they, which are inseparable conjunction, they and ha, which is the definite article, and the Adam and the man, or I would say is and the man, because you're not really going to put a definite article before a proper noun, because the proper noun is already particular or specific. So, and the man, yada, knew it. The direct object is what? Hawa. So the man is doing the action to the woman or Eve. Please understand why understanding biblical Hebrew grammar is important, because you can simply use this to refute commentary from the Zohar. So some parts of the Zohar, I'm like, wow, that was deep. Some parts I'm like, man, that goes against the written text. What do we subscribe to? What the written text says or what is written in the Zohar? So not only that, we have here, right? Ka niti ish et Yahava. So what am I saying here? And she's saying who? Eve, right? Va tomer ka niti or niti, depends on how you want to pronounce it. Ish et Yehava. Now, why am I showing you this? We have another direct object marker that is pointing to what? Yod He Wav He. So the source of the getting of the man from the woman is who? Yod He Wav He. So now Adam was the one that knew Eve directly, and the getting of the man came from Yod He Wav He. So Yod He Wav He and Adam were the responsible for the begetting of Cain, not the serpent. The language puts that to bed. I don't see how somebody can look at the language and try to harmonize it with the Zohar commentary. It's just not there. You just can't do it. All right? You just can't do it. All right? So does anybody disagree with the language? I'm just reading the language. Is anybody going to come here and tell me, Divine, you got a literal understanding? How do you get around the syntax of the language and the grammar of the language? How do you get past that? How do you get past it? Okay, if I'm wrong, if anybody in here knows biblical Hebrew, please tell me I'm wrong. And please tell me that it's open for interpretation. It's very difficult when you have et in there, but maybe I'm wrong. Can somebody, anybody in here could attest to biblical Hebrew? Let me know that I'm interpreting this the wrong. I'm parsing it out and I'm interpreting it wrong. Please, somebody in there, I'll wait. Because I don't want to hear nobody who says, you got a literal interpretation. And I said, I'm just reading it in the language. I'm just reading what the language says. The serpent has nothing to do with the source of Cain. Now, could the serpent have influenced Cain? That's open for interpretation. But the begetting or the procreation element, no, that's not there. All right. I'm sorry to tell you it's not there. So you can use all the metaphysics you want to try and interpret this, but the language itself is not going to allow you to have that wiggle room. It's not there. Anybody? Anybody in here want to do that? Anybody? Okay. So let's keep reading because we're going to get to the Lilith part. We're going to keep getting into that, right? Check this out. All right. So let's go back to that. Now my screen froze. It's not good. Wow. All right. Whoops. All right. My apologies, family. I don't know what just happened. I have no clue what just happened, but I'm back. All right. So check this out. Let me bring up this part for you. Let's go back to the Zohar. Hit 1 if you guys can see and hear me. Hit 1 if you can see and hear me. Hit 1 if you can see and hear me. Now, Dallas Nash says, is a serpent a man? Well, then you got to go back and look into the word for serpent there, nachash, right? For serpent. It could be the bronze one, right? It may not even be a literal serpent. It could be the bronze one. But the reason why they relate it to the serpent is because of the curse about the serpent on his belly, right? But again, there's another reason for that, another mystic reason for that, but I'm not going to get into that. Let's keep going. All right, let's go to 205. Okay, you can see me. Okay, good. All right. Now check this out. All things return to the element from which they came. Unless Cain came from that side of the serpent, he would have not behaved so towards his brother. Therefore, when Adam saw Abel killed and Cain expelled, he said, why shall I henceforth be a father? He separated from his wife. Check this out. For 130 years, and unholy female spirits will come and conceive from him, and he begot spirits and demons called the plagues of man. This was established. Are you following me? I've heard people use this doctrine before. I'm just simply telling you where it's from. After that, he was jealous and wore jealousy. He united with his wife and begot Seth as written, and begot a son in his own likeness after his image, and called him Seth. Bereshit 5:3, which was not true for the first sons born above. So what they're saying is, when you look at Bereshit 5:3, the way that is written to the person who understands Kabbalah, it's like, well, the reason why we don't see this description of Cain is because Cain was not from Adam. So they're using Bereshit 5:3 to give him wiggle room to go back and better interpret what we see in Bereshit chapter 4, verse 1. And I can say that there's a reason why it's written like that. Because through Seth, the lineage of Adam was passed on through Seth. Now, Cain's was cursed. Cain. So his firstborn was in the image of Adam because Adam was not a murderer. When Seth was born, Seth took on the image and likeness of his father because he walked in his father's ways. That's why it's there. It doesn't take a lot of deepness to explain that. But let's keep going. Now check this out. 207 connects back with 205. Watch this. All right. For in the beginning, before Eve, he had another union with Lilith. Right? With Lilith. And it says, as explained, until Eve came. For the Holy One blessed be he prepared her for Adam, and they were united face to face. Therefore, it is written, this one shall be called woman, Bereshit 2:23, but the other one, Lilith, is not so called as was explained. Since Adam and Eve were created together, it is written, male and female, he created them and blessed them, Bereshit 5:2. The two of them were together, therefore was written, you have beset me behind and before. Come and see. This is something different, right? The ephod breastplate were behind and before, the breastplate before and the ephod behind. And when the priests wore them, again, it's talking about the garments of the priests and giving you the mystical and metaphysical understanding of it. He had the likeness of the higher image, the Zir and Pin and Malchut, the secret of behind and before. And we have learned that his face shone and the letters stood out, illuminating and rising up. Then he knew that which was needed. This has to do with the priestly garment and what it represented. All right. And it goes on further to that. I'm not going to get in deep into that. There's other things in here that I wanted to pull out tonight, but I'm looking at the time and I'm running low on time. And I want to get into objective research methodology in a second. What I simply am trying to show you guys here is that when you hear a lot of these doctrines, here's the source for it. Here's a source. All right. Chico Fontaine, I don't subscribe to the virgin birth, but I mean, if you want to come on and discuss it, we can. All right. Thank you, Anonymous Hebrew. I appreciate that, my brother. Chester Sweeney says, how do you explain God's relation with Cain, protecting him and such? Well, the purpose of that was for the justification of doing things over again and giving mankind another opportunity to replenish the earth in righteousness. That's why Cain was allowed to live and was allowed to procreate and have successors, because he gave him an opportunity through mercy. The Most High gave Cain an opportunity to repent. Because remember, he gave him an opportunity when he approached him and says, why hast thy countenance has fallen? If you have done well, will you not be accepted? If you don't do well, a sin offering is at your door. He gave Cain an opportunity before the act and showed mercy on him after the act. This goes to show the character of the Creator. Okay. All right. Virtue says, what do you believe the Nachash is in Genesis 3? The Nachash, from my perspective, is some kind of entity. What that entity is, I don't know. Right? Is it a literal serpent? Could it be like the seraphim? Why would you say it's like a seraphim? Check this out. Let me show it to y'all. Great question. Excellent question. Check this out. Let me show it to y'all. Watch this. But Midbar, on Numbers 21 and 4, from Mount Hor, they set out by the way of the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom. And the people became impatient on the way. And the people spoke against the Most High and against Moshe. Why have you brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water, and we loathe this worthless food. See the ungratefulness? Then Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh, the text says, sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, so that many people died in Israel. Many people of Israel died. Here's your word, ha-nechashim. Han-nechashim. Hash-sherafim. See this? Hash-sherafim. So we have this word here, nachash, and then we have the suffix, which is the masculine plural, shim. You have your chirik yod mem, your definite article, hey, with the patach, right? You have your noon with your dagesh in the middle and your shewa underneath. And then you have your hit, which your kametz, your shin, right? Your han neshin, hash sherafim. So your seraphim, wait, seraphim, nahash. Wait, where do we see that at? Let's go to Genesis 3. Look what the text says. Nachash, excuse me. Nachash. That root word there, nachash, is there. Nachash. Nachash. See? Nun, het, shin. Let's go back. Nun, het, shin. But this is in the plural. Interesting. But now it's coupled with what? Seraphim. Interesting. So when you ask me what was that serpent, I'm saying it could be a shortened form of what we see here in Numbers chapter 21 and verse 6. And that could have been the entity that was interfacing with the woman. Now, the curse element, where it has to be on its belly, that's figurative language. But that's something altogether. There's a way you can interpret figurative language in the text. Now, when people say, well, Devon, you went in that literally, no, you don't, because there's clues in the language that show you literary devices that's being employed in order to explain and convey what's going on. All right. So, okay, I'm gonna walk away from that for a second. And some people are gonna be thinking that Divine's teaching mysticism here. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you what the language says and the hints that's in the text that let you know when you can play with certain things. What's an idiom? What is things that are allegorical, metaphorical, right? what are some of these things? What is a motif? Because we see a similar motif or a theme that permeates throughout the text in regards to this entity. You look at these things holistically, look at cognates and sister languages, and look at sister cultures and their identification. Even Lilith was believed to have a cognate in Babylon and Sumeria, but that's something totally different. I can get into that. All right. So virtue, yes, some say that it was the pre-Adamites. That's another thing altogether. I'm saying it's some kind of entity, right? Whatever the seraphim is, it was an entity like that. Now let's see if we can get some descriptions of a seraphim. What does a seraphim look like? Right? Let's check it out. Right? Check this out. Let me get it for you real quick. All right. All right. Let's go to Yeshayahu chapter 6, verse 2. Hold on. Why is it not showing it? Oh, okay, here it is. All right. So it says here, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Okay. Let's keep going. Right? Oh, I like the Septuagint. Man, this is beautiful. They updated the Blue Letter Bible to include a Septuagint, which I like because I had to keep going to Katza Biblion and going into the Septuagint there, but we have it here as well. All right. And it says, and above him stood the seraphim. Right? So if you look in here, where's your seraphim? Where's your seraphim? Do y'all see it? Tell me if y'all can find it. Ah, here it is. The root. Shin Resh Pe. Seraphim. Right? So seraphim. So above him stood the seraphim. All right. Each had 6 wings. With 2, he covered his face. And with 2, he covered his feet. And with 2, he flew. So now the seraphim is identified with having 6 wings. 2 that covers its face. 2 that covers its feet. And 2 in which it flows. Which it flies. Now check this. Let's go to Genesis chapter 3. All right. Genesis chapter 3, verse 14 says, then Yod-Heh-Wah-Feh Elohim said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock, above all the beasts of the field. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. Right? He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Here's the thing right here. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat. Because look, one way to identify prose within the text and different types of prose is the way that a critical edition Bible, like the ESV, structures the verse. You see how it's structured, right? It says, and this is all Hebraisms, right? On your belly you shall go, dust you shall eat all the days of your life. Now, check this out. If we're saying that Nachash there was a type of seraphim, right, or seraph, we see that it had wings that covered its feet. You know, some people use Ezekiel chapter 28 as a cherubim. That's another kind of entity. Well, a seraphim was an entity that now was in the garden, interfacing with the one. Hence why we see communication, because we don't see nowhere else that the woman is talking to an animal. We don't see that in the text. So some kind of entity talking to her. And now what happens is this entity now is going to be relegated to an animal status as it roams to and for the earth. That now the feet that the seraph once had is now being removed. So that way it's limiting its power, its authority, its influence, its abilities. It's being limited. And now it has a short lifespan. It is no longer eternal. And now it will be judged and destroyed. So that's one way to approach it and to understand it. All right. All right. So Mark Moore, in regards to that, we have the avatar of El, which is Yod He Wafe. That's L's extension, right? That's it right there. So when he goes and he visits Abraham, boom, boom. When he goes to be a messenger over here, you know, like in Judges chapter 2, where the messenger took credit for bringing the children of Israel out, because the Most High says he would send a messenger before them. Okay. So now that messenger essence, right? That's the puppet. That now goes into the flesh, and it moves the flesh and does stuff like it went into Jeremiah, right? His words like fire shut up in my bones, like it went and grabbed Ezekiel, you know, the spirit. It did all of this, right? That's the extension of Yah. He took it and he put it in. It without the arm of Yah, no salvation can be brought to mankind or to the children of Israel. He said that to Yeshayahu, that I saw no man that could do it. Lo, there could be no, yea, my own arm has brought me salvation. That means he has to work that extension into things in order for salvation to come about. You don't believe me? Ezekiel laid on both sides, and he took the iniquity of the children of Israel on him. And because of that, the Most High used him to speak the message. You had a portion of Israel that was saved, the remnant that was saved because of what the priest Ezekiel did by means of having the spirit of Yah in him and using him and showing him stuff, so that way he could atone for the sins of Israel in a figurative sense. Okay. I told y'all, Yahweh is the avatar of El, and that Yahweh is the messenger essence that then uses humans. And I said with Yeshua, it fused with him, because we see a messenger several other places in the text. Daniel's another good example of what you see in Revelation chapter 1. But it's not just in Revelation chapter 1. There's another passage that shows a same kind of entity with Ezekiel. So now we see the spirit can manifest into a messenger, has the name of Yod He Wafe in it, like we see as it spoke to Moshe. And then now that essence says, okay, we're going to use this flesh now. And these last times, instead of speaking through the Nevi'im previously, we speak to the last sons of the Son. Now, the Son element has to do with divine sonship connected to the divine council. Yod He Wafe is El's avatar amongst the divine council. And now that avatar goes into the flesh and is using the flesh. They're not the same thing. You understand? Are you following me? They're not the same being. They're not the same essence. One is flesh, one is spirit. The spirit went into the flesh and merged with the flesh. It was not God the Son, the second person of the Godhead that pre-existed and had to come into the earth by means of the virgin birth, because man was laden with sin. You know, that's a doctrine that comes from, you know, justifying paedobaptism through Augustine's writings. Have you ever read the Church Father Augustine's works? I read almost all of it. I understand you need the original sin doctrine in order to justify paedobaptism, and also for the Roman Church to build on that and sell you indulgences and all of that. It's crazy when you see all the interconnection of everything. So hopefully that answers your question. So let me tidy it up, because we already after the 2-hour 17-minute mark. All right. Box 101 says, since Mr. Divine does not prescribe to virgin birth, please explain Matthew 1:19. All right. Facts, my brother Big Main. Thank you, my brother. I'm glad this is helping somebody. All right. So Yeti Demon Sniper, interesting name. I actually did a video on that. Corporophagia. Go look at the video I did on corporophagia. Do you know what corporophagia is? Corporophagia has to do with eating feces or stool, because some people speaks about what Ezekiel did and say, why would God make a man eat animal dung? And they just miss the entire ancient Near Eastern context behind using animal dung as fuel to heat stuff up. Remember I showed y'all animal dung was used with cannabis on that altar in Telerad. Yeah. So my brother, go back, type in DivineProspect, corporophagia, Corporophagia. Type that in and you'll see the lesson I did on corporophagia. All right. So, Sister Dream Sky Lover says, do you know any good sources for understanding the book of Ezekiel? One source I recommend, sis, and you've been following for some time, that gives some good commentary. Because remember, I told y'all, I'm trying to give y'all the tools so you don't have to rely on the commentary, right? This is why learning the culture and the language is important, because this is what the commentators use, okay? But one good book would be the Cultural Backgrounds Study Bible, right? The NKJV, which is the version I prefer over the NSRV and over the NIV. Let me show you what that book looks like, sis. And let me show you, matter of fact, let me show you a reference. Let me pull it out so you can see. And after this, I want to close off methodology, family, and I'm done, okay? Unfortunately, I don't know where the brother is at. I have no clue. All right. Oh, shout out to my brother, Semper Reformata, Soldier of Christ in the building. What's going on, King? I'm looking forward to having a build. If y'all didn't know, you can go back and subscribe to this brother. This is a brother that is in the Christian circle. All right. Another brother that I found that subscribes to progressive covenantalism that I had discussed in depth with Vocab Malone. But he is a Christian, but I like the way he approaches things, right? He's not in that argumentative spirit. He also provides tools for people to do their own independent research. So big shout out to that brother in the building. Thank you for coming on and showing love, my brother. Again, he's a Christian. Okay, he's a Christian. All right, you said you found the book, sis? All right, great, great. You can get the Kindle version, which is much cheaper, and you can access it that way. All right, so let me show it to you real quick so you can see. Let me bring up the book for you on the screen. Shalom to Street Baptism in the building. What's going on? What's going on? All right, I gotta give a second because it looks like my Kindle was updating. All right. Let me put this back on the screen for y'all that I had earlier so you can understand. Now, remember, after the reconstruction and restoration process happens, this is how you build your spirituality, right? The spirituality is extremely important, but my position is the culture dictates the spirituality. So once you're properly able to reconstruct and restore the culture, then you will be right in alignment with the spirituality that the culture was attempting to convey, right? All right, so check this out. Let me bring it up. I have the book right here. Oh, this thing is sinking. I gotta wait for it to finish sinking. All right, so here it is right here. Let me show it to y'all so you can see the book. All right, here's the book here. It's called the Cultural Background Study Bible. All right, this is the NKJV version, which I have, the NKJV version. All right, because it's a more formal equivalency translation as opposed to a dynamic equivalency translation. What does this mean? That means the translators, and you can see this from the preface of any critical edition Bible, some translators take the approach of a formal equivalency when they want to translate the text more so word for word. When you get to a dynamic equivalency translation, so an example of a formal would be the New American Standard Bible, the ESV, the KJV, etc. When you go over to the other side to a dynamic equivalency, you have some more that's more extreme, like the Amplified Bible and the Message Bible. Those are garbage Bibles. Please don't use those Bibles. But you have NLT, which I think is at the cups of usage. NIV is a little bit more reserved or more conservative than the NLT, which is more loose. But dynamic equivalency is the translators, if you read the preface of these Bibles, say that they take a more thought for thought approach, meaning that it's easier to read it because it flows like English, because they look at a line in the scriptures or the manuscripts, and they say, okay, how can we take this and formulate it in a way where the morphology, the phonology, and the syntax of English, if we use that to better convey what is said here, as opposed to trying to word for word translate, where you'll get stuck with idioms when you approach idioms and certain doublets and certain pros from Hebraisms and so forth, It's just a way or approach of translation. I tend to favor the more concrete literal, to the point where I favor, if I'm going to use any kind of English Bible, I prefer a interlinear, or what some people call reverse interlinear, depending upon what you're using. You have a reverse interlinear of the Tanakh or of the Brit Hadashah, the Old Testament, New Testament, right? Those are the English Bibles I prefer anybody to read. However, to give you insight in regards to like a book of Ezekiel, I recommend you get this cultural background study Bible. And I'm going to show you why. We're going to get to the book of Ezekiel, and I'm going to show you why I recommend it, okay? So let's get Ezekiel. Right? So it gives you some background on Ezekiel, which I love. Maybe, well, you know what? Let me go through it. All right, so here's an example, right? This is Ezekiel chapter 1, right? Verse 3, where it says that he is a priest, son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Chebar, and the hand of Yod-Heh-Wafe was upon him there. And then I looked, and behold, a whirlwind was coming forth out of the north, a great cloud with raging fire engulfing itself, and brightness was all around it, and radiating out of it its mist of the color of amber, and out of the mist of fire. Also from within it came the likeness of 4 creatures, and this was the appearance they had, the likeness of man. Each one had 4 faces, each one had 4 wings. Now, here's the beauty of the Cultural Background Study Bible, right? It's additional commentary and it's footnotes. If you click on 5, what it does is that it goes in the footnotes and explains, it seems that this is the elaboration of his vision. Ezekiel takes as a model the gigantic composite creatures well known in Assyrian and Babylonian iconography and glyphic art. Well, why would Ezekiel be saying that? Because Ezekiel was taken in the first exile in 597 BCE and brought to the river Chebar, which was a city or a town by the river that Israelites were taken, land grants were given so they can cultivate the land on behalf of the entities they were subjected to, in this case, the Babylonians. Did you know about the Hanging Gardens? Was one of the great wonders of the world. Like the Babylonians were very big into farming, gardening, and the aesthetics of such. And they knew the Israelites had a great trade with that, so they utilized them in different regions to beautify their communities, okay? So obviously, if he's in Babylon, he's going to see these imagery in Babylon. So these entities that was in that realm is going to approach him. He's going to see it. So this is why he's able to identify using iconography that he understands from being in Babylon, or what happened in Syria before they were taken into Babylon. This is when we go into the Shedim, and I talk about the Sedu, and I told you what that is in regards to the Assyrian culture, the protecting spirit, you know, those entities that they draw that look like human faces, animal bodies with wings that are placed in front of the temples, in front of the palaces. And if you look at it from the front, it is looking like the entity is approaching you to withstand you. But if you're allowed in, you'll see there's a side portion of side preview or side profile of that entity where the entity is looking like it's there to protect you. So one is walking away from you and one is standing in front of you. So when you're looking at it from the front, it's standing in front of you, bold to oppose you. But as you're allowed in, because these protective entities have to allow anybody outside the culture or ethnic group to be allowed in. Now, as you go in, you see from the side profile, it looks like these entities are walking away from you because now they have given you entrance into the temple or into the palace or wherever else may be. All right. Okay. So it goes on to say these hybrid creatures protected the entrance into temples and palaces. The colossal Assyrian composite creatures unearthed during archaeological excavations provide a fitting example. They've been excavated at the site of ancient Nimrud, where they guarded the doorways of the palace of Ashur-Nasirpal II. All right. One of these is a winged bull with a human body. Remember, this is the Shedu, human head. Another was the body of a lion. Ezekiel consistently repeats the expression likeness, indicating his unwillingness to commit himself to the substantial identity of the scene with the compared. It looked like fire. And in Hebrew, you have the kaf prefix, the inseparable kaf prefix, which means like or as. Like fire, living creatures, a human being, but these buffer terms indicate it's a protective barrier. That's what buffer means. Indicate that this was only a vision. This is the sort of language regularly used in reports of dreams and visions. All right. Again, sis, if you really want to go through this text, this is one of the best Bibles that has some of the most accurate cultural commentaries as it pertains to the things we're reading in the text. And that's what I say. If you want to understand the text, you have to understand the language, you have to understand the culture. And then you got to understand these things within the historical context and within the environment in which these things are occurring. And in the time period, the political stresses, social stresses, you have to understand different things that are going on as far as diet, things that was adored, things that were superstitious or feared. All of these things are important. And this Bible actually helps you get through it. So I recommend you get this book, sis. You can get what I have, the Kindle version, or you can get a physical copy as well, whatever's your cup of tea. All right. All right. Thank you, my brother, Anonymous Hebrew, for the donation. I appreciate that. You said that book 101 wants the smoke on the virgin birth. Well, I'm not going to do that tonight. But 101, definitely. Next time I go live, you can definitely jump on here and we can have a smoke break. The reason why I don't want to do it now is because I want to get my last point off. And then it seems I'm not going to have enough time for the Q&A because I did answer some questions as we were going through this. But you're more than welcome to set up a discussion with me and you can get that smoke. But I always give the Surgeon General warning before I give you that smoke. That's one of the next shirts I'm going to make. All right. That's dibs. All right. So y'all will stop. We plan to do that March 25th, 2021 to the UN in New York City. All right. So we'll have more details on that next year and you'll see it. We'll be advertising and speaking about it on this channel and you'll have all the details you need to be a part of that because it's going to be powerful, powerful, powerful. All right. All right. So box 101. Listen, you have more than enough time. How about you do this, box 101? I did a lecture, and the lecture I did is called Baptized in the Tradition of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Any one of my mods can drop the link to the lecture that I did that's called Baptized in the Name of the Father, Baptized in the tradition of the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. And I explained to you my position on the virgin birth as it pertains to that. All right, I give it up. And I explain that. So if you want to understand that, please watch that first, like you did my series, so you can cite me while we're talking and we can actually build. I don't know if you have a work that you've done on this box 101, but if you do, please email me, kingdomharbinger@gmail.com, if you've done work on this, so I can also analyze and peer review your work and source cite your work when we have our dialogue. Okay, because this is not going to be a one-way interrogation. It does not work that way when you come on my channel. All right. All right. Jack Mack says, any connection between the Zohar approach and New Testament? So the only way to galvanize that understanding is to look at contemporary works from the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd century BCE. Now, when you talk about the metaphysical, a lot of the metaphysical stuff that you find in the New Testament comes from the Qumran community, which was a different sect than Simeon that we looked up. Now I wanted to save this for the discussion I had with what's his name, but it looks like that's not going to happen. But I want to bring this up on the screen then, since we're talking about it. Let me bring it up on the screen real quick. All right. Let me show you this on the screen. All right, check this out. All right, let me see if I can find it. All right, let's do this. All right, Rabbi Simeon ben Yochai. According to the traditional view, the 2nd century sage of the Mishnah also authored the Zohar. And again, that's the traditional perspective. That's not what academia proposes. Simeon ben Yochai, also known as Shimon bar Yochai, right? Because that would be the Aramaic rendering of Simeon ben, because Simeon ben is Hebrew. Shimon bar Yochai is Aramaic. A famous rabbi of the 2nd century CE, was a disciple of Rabbi Akiva and a colleague of Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Judah, and Rabbi Jose. Rabbi Simeon ben Yochai's opinions in halakha are referred to frequently in the Talmudic records of the debates and discussions among the Tananim, right? He was also renowned as an exponent of scripture and a miracle worker. So when you hear people talk against the New Testament, there was other people that were miracle workers during that time period, and he is one of them. But he's from the 2nd century CE. He was a miracle worker, it was believed. And also there was other miracle workers. I'm going to shout some names out. Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, he was also considered a miracle worker. And Rabbi Hani, he was also considered a miracle worker. This was something that was common. So when you hear about healing on the Sabbath, did you know that there was Shabbat laws in the Talmud against healing on the Sabbath? So when you don't understand halakha and you don't read the Talmud, you're going to take the discourse between Yeshua and the Pharisees out of context. And I dare a Christian to tell me that Yeshua broke the Sabbath. I dare a Christian to say that, because the moment he does that, he is no longer perfect. In the Talmudic legend, Rabbi Simeon made some adverse remarks about the Roman occupation of Judea, and when this was reported to the government authorities, he was obliged to flee for his life. Together with his son Eleazar, he lived in a cave for 13 years. That is how he got the understanding of the Zohar. According to Kabbalists, Rabbi Simeon ben Yochai is the author of the Zohar, a work composed in the main during his forced stay in the cave, and the bulk of which consists of mystical interpretation of scripture by Rabbi Simeon and his chosen companions. Recent Zoharic scholarship has demonstrated that the true author of the major part of the Zohar was Moshe de Leon, who made Rabbi Simeon the hero of his pseudo-pigraphic work. All right. Now, all this is important because if you're asking about the relation between the Zohar and the New Testament, what we have to do is align it closely together. So if this individual, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, existed in the 2nd century CE, which is 100 CE to 200 CE, and he lived during that period of time, and the events for the scriptures take place from 33, maybe 00 BCE or CE to 100 CE. We have to look to see what that text is saying, because a lot of the manuscripts we have are not autographs from the 1st century. It's really things that show up in the 2nd century. So can there be some affinities? Because some people say that Yeshua was teaching Zohar, he was teaching metaphysical stuff. Well, yes and no, but he would be more closely aligned with the type of stuff that's taught in the Qumran community. So if you don't know what they taught in the Qumran community, you're not fully going to understand how to interpret some things that seem metaphysical that Yeshua is speaking about. And then you'll probably see hints of it through acculturation with his followers and Rabbi Simeon ben Yochai's followers, that over time they have interfaces with each other. And a lot of things develop over time, right? So again, study the mysticism or metaphysics in the Qumran community, because that more closely aligns with what people will call some of the mysticism stuff that Yeshua was teaching, more so than what we find in the Zohar. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay? All right. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. Let me round off what I was trying to say, and then I'm going to end this because I want to get it done before 3 hours. So here's the last thing I want to show you. So you remember the first diagram I showed y'all? I'm going to show y'all a few other diagrams because I want y'all to see what research methodology is. Okay, this is important. Okay, let me show you on the screen. All right. Steps in the research process. The first thing is define a problem, select a topic for research. So these are steps that I find, all right, things that I do. So one question is, it says, select a topic for research. So here's a topic for research. The topic for research was the serpent the father of Cain? That's the research problem, all right? From there, we review the literature, which would be the Zohar and which would be the scriptures, okay? The second thing is select a research design. And this is a model that you use or an algorithm that you create that leads you towards your hypothesis, right? Let me zoom in a little further so you can see what's here on the screen. There we go. All right. Choose one or more research methods. It could be a qualitative method, quantitative method. There's a whole book that I share on the Patreon about research methodology, right? So there's an approach that you take to parse things out, get it to its lowest common denominator in order for it to drive your hypothesis. So here's the thing. I look at the Zohar, I look at the scriptures, and I say, wait, these don't look like they measure up. That's after I define the problem. I review the literature. I select the design to winnow through it. And then it says formulate hypothesis. What do you intend to test? What is the relationship among the variables? What I'm testing is there any validity to the claim in the Zohar that the serpent produced Cain through Eve? That's important. If not, if we cannot justify from the text, because the only reference comes from the begetting of Seth, that Seth was made in the likeness and image of Adam, which is the justification as to why Cain was a different breed. However, the scripture in the literal reading of the Hebrew gives the causal agent of the beginning of Cain to the yada, the knowing process of Adam and the woman Hawa, and the direct article also object marker points to Yahweh being connected with that. So my hypothesis is that, man, there's no unity there. Something's wrong. What is the relationship between the variables? And we explain that. Okay, so we look at the Kabbalists and what they're trying to express is they're trying to give you what's called the sud layer of understanding, something to undermine the stiffness and the religious piety and the religious doxology that became stagnant during the medieval period. The mysticists came along to find another interpretive lens to bring a more fresh understanding of the text, to liberate people from the legalism in rabbinic Judaism. So you got to understand the history to know what's going on there. So that's me carrying out the research, looking in the contemporary period, okay, of when the Zohar that we have today, when it was produced, what was going on in the thought forms of the Jewish people during that time, rabbinic Judaism, the Karaites who also was around during that time. You carry out the research, you collect all your data, right? Record your information. Now you interpret the results, work out the implications of the data you collect. So if you're telling me this is the religious scene during that time period, and after the Karaites come out, you have another sect that comes out as mysticists that come out that are saying, look, there's too much stiffness and rigidity in rabbinic Judaism. There has to be something much deeper that the Most High has encoded in the text that we can interpret. So if I create this myth that happened with the historical character, then the myth with history creates a legend. And because he is revered and people respect him because he helped to drive the Mishnah, and I attribute this deep understanding to this person who was a miracle worker, which means he would have more insight into the divine to be able to work miracles. Check it. Follow me how this thing works. Now I'm able to see the context where all of this stuff is evolving. Going into the Masoretic text, looking at that from the Masoretes and say, okay, is this the idea of the Masoretes that is written there Now I got to take what I read in Bereshit chapter 4 and 1 and compare it with the Samaritan Pentateuch, compare it with the Septuagint, compare it with what we get in the Dead Sea Scrolls, see if there's any textual variant that is reflective of not the original that we can reconstruct, but something that was influenced by a particular group of scribes. And we see the consistency in Genesis 4:1. There's not a lot of textual variation in between all the written works. Therefore, we can look at the transmission rate of the written text and say, look, it's consistent, not just with one group, but various groups that are writing down this text. So we have a cohesiveness there and a unity or a echad that's there. So looking at this and this being deemed as canon by the consensus of the community, now when you branch out into the mysticism part, which again is attributed to Shimon ben Yochai, right? Who got this revelation in a cave for 13 years, sounds similar to an angel coming to Muhammad, peace be upon him. An angel showed up to him and gave him the Quran, told him to recite it. Because he couldn't read it right. Says, I can't do that. Squeezed him. Read it. You can't read it. Read it. You can't read it. Then recite it. And he started to recite it. An angel showed up and revealed it to him. Okay? And now we have somebody during the medieval period, because it's written in medieval Hebrew, which is another telltale sign that this probably is not an original. Okay? Because it puts emphasis on a historical character, but creates a legend out of it. But the language in which we have it written is preserved in medieval Hebrew and medieval Aramaic. How do we know that? Looking at contemporary works during that time period and looking at the style and usages and idioms that all align it and date it to that time period. So now we have something else that we're dealing with. Again, I'm walking y'all through it. So you got to consider these things, strip out information, mix all these things. So now I report the research findings, which I'm sharing with y'all right now. What is their significance? How do they relate to previous findings? So now what I'm saying is, if somebody says, Divine, you're too literal, you're at the Peshat level, I'm giving you the Sud level, but they never told me the source of this Sud level interpretive lens, and I'm able to bring it back to the Zohar, and I tell them that Zohar is believed to be an oral tradition passed down by Shimon bar Yochai, and passed down through the ages. Okay. And now as it's passed down to the ages, it is now picked up or found written by an individual by the name of Moshe ben Shem Tov de Leon. All right. Where his story comes out that his wife says that he was the one that created it. Again, we got to factor that in. She says he wrote it, and she asked him, well, if you wrote it, why are you attributing to him? She says, because it's only going to have value if we attribute it to somebody who is respected. It's only going to be profitable if people respect him, because they didn't respect Moshe ben Shem Tov de Leon like that yet. Okay. So now we're looking at this, and now my findings say that there is a stark contradiction between the data that supports the written text and that which we find in the Zohar. However, in the written text, the transmission accuracy has a higher degree of veracity than what we can even measure with the Zohar, because we don't have nothing earlier written of it. So therefore, it becomes more speculative and different things kind of like isolated. So this is very important, because now my finding is, now I have to simply say that the reason why this interpretive lens emerged is because of a lot of different, I would say, fringe Jewish understandings that started coming up in Europe at the time, because now they're mixing and interfacing with Christian mysticism and Arabic mysticism, which is Sufism. So you have Christian mysticism, Sufism. The Jews are like, well, we got Sufism too. We have an esoteric explanation for the things in the Torah and the rest of the text as well. And it had to come by the time where the rabbinic powers became too rigid, and you had to venture off and give this deeper understanding and attribute it to a historical person, where you create a legend that you get people to assume. And what it did, the Zohar actually, over time, after it being fought by the rabbinic Jews, they started to accept it and even apply it. Okay. So I'm going to rock with the text because the veracity of it is there. We don't have the same veracity with this Zohar. And this is why the Zohar came about and why it's attributing, because people wanted to understand, get the esoteric understanding of why Cain killed Abel, why he received the mark. And why we have the words, and Seth was made in the likeness and image of Adam. It is a commentary to interpret these things, to explain it. All right. Hopefully you'll follow me. So this is the process that I utilize in order to put this thing together. Now, let me show you a good book on research methodology, because you saw that was one of the points on there, right? Show it to you. I'll give you a nice book on there, all right? Check this out. I'm gonna show it to you. Give me 1 second. Let me bring it out. And these are some sources that you guys go. If you want me to put it on a Patreon, I definitely will put it on a Patreon. This one I like is it's more rudimentary. All right. Let me bring it up on the screen for y'all so you can see it. All right. Here's one research methodology for beginners that I recommend. This one is called Research Methodology, a Step-by-Step Guide for Beginners, 3rd edition by Ranjit Kumar, right? Excellent book that's written for the layman, and it goes in depth on the different things that I just told y'all. A way of thinking, the research process. Well, hold on, let me zoom in so y'all can see it. So once you understand this, you'll understand the approach that I take when it comes to the text, okay? Research, a way of thinking, it gives you a nice little intro. Then it goes into the research process, formulating a research problem, conceptualizing a research design, constructing an instrument for data collection, selecting a sample, writing a research proposal, right? Collecting data, processing and displaying data, writing a research report, reviewing the literature, bringing clarity and focus to your research problem, improving your research methodology, searching for existing literature, reviewing the selected literature. So if somebody says that, oh, you're interpreting that wrong, the serpent is the one that produced Cain through Eve. So where you get that from? Read the literature on this, find the Zohar and say, oh, okay, this is where it comes from. Formulating a research problem, identifying variables, right? Constructing a hypothesis, the definition of hypothesis, which is extremely important that you understand what that is. Hypo and thesis, right? Hypothesis, okay? Conceptualizing a research design, right? And this is the thing they were telling you, use a research design. This goes in to tell you that, right? Study design based on a number of contexts, reference period, nature of investigation, crossover, comparative, experimental design, which I like to use, the replicated cross-sectional design, the cohort studies, which I like, the trend studies, which I like, panel, blind, and double blind is really good for like medical studies and stuff like that, scientific studies. Qualitative research deals with case studies, oral history, holistic research, participant observation, because people will use the Zohar and say it's subjective or whatever, so I can get their perspective on it, right? Then constructing an instrument for data collection, right? Observation, an interview questionnaire, pre-testing a research question, etc. Collecting data for attitudinal scales, right? Measurements of attitudes in quantitative and qualitative research. You have to know the attitude of the person you're interviewing and the bias and attitudes of the authors of the works and the data that you're collecting. That's also important. Establishing the validity and reliability of a research instrument, selecting a sample, writing a research proposal, collecting more data, processing and displaying data, right, through text and graphs, writing a research report, research methodology, and practice evaluation, which is important because you have to run evaluation of that which you have produced in order to present it. And all this has to be done in a research paper. I was doing a lot of this in college. I hated it at that time, but now I see the importance of it, okay? So that's one book. Another one here is The Essentials of Research Design and Methodology. All right, a practical overview of proven methods for research design. Expert advice includes case samples, call-out boxes, and test yourself questions, conveniently formatted for rapid reference, okay? And this is 305 pages. The other one, this one right here, is 441 pages. And this one, the Handbook of Methodological Approaches to Community-Based Research, Qualitative, Quantitative, and Mixed Methods by Oxford Publishing. This one is 409 pages. So you're not going to read this all in one night. It's going to take some time. But as you read it, take notes and apply it to the subject matters that we cover when we teach here on this channel. When we do our classes, we're going to use that entire process and just enter information, data, come up with some conclusions until we reach our premise, right? Or our thesis that we want to present. And you're going to be able to use these resources, use this methodology, and be able to come up with it for yourself. All right? Okay. So hopefully this was beneficial to y'all. Stanley Field says, put it on the Patreon. Okay, I will. So again, family, make sure you go to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/DivineProspect. All right. You'll see a lot of these resources I'm going to add today. I'm going to throw the Zohar on there tonight. I'm going to put the research methodology book on there on tonight as well. So you have those two so you guys can read on it. Otherwise, you guys can go and purchase the book for yourselves or email me and I can send you the books if you're not part of the Patreon, right? So even people who are not part of the Patreon, I still send them the books for free. But that alludes to what we were discussing earlier. Okay. All right. John and Dorsey. Yes. Yes. Actually, I cited a work on the mystery of the School of On in my first lecture that I did on Sonetta TV. Check that out. Or you can email me. I can send it to you. And I also have one for Babylon as well, if you're interested in it. Okay. All right. Anytime, Yawasab, anytime. All right. Keith Williams says Cain did not belong to Adam. That is evident and obvious because, well, that's not evident and obvious. Excuse me. Let me excuse that. That is only evident and obvious to people who subscribe to the Zohar. Keith, if that is your proposition, I challenge you on that. Let's debate that. Because obviously you did not watch anything that I just shared because you said, what did I miss? So you're just jumping in the middle of things. Why don't you go back and watch what I said previously? And then when you're ready, we could debate on that. Because that's incorrect. I disagree with that. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. Okay. All right, family. With that, I'm going to end this session. Thank you all for watching. All right. Okay. Thank you for watching. Again, this session was not an attack on our brothers and sisters that dive into the metaphysical aspect of understanding the Torah. I'm not attacking it. What I'm simply doing is for the people who've come in here and have questioned my stance of being dogmatic, literal, and at the Bashat level. I'm trying to demonstrate that I understand the Sud level, give you the source or the origin or the provenance of the Zohar, show you some things in it, and using a research methodology, which I just summarized, and able to see if it harmonizes with the written text. I can harmonize it if I wanted to, but I don't think the harmony is there. I think you have to force it, right? And I just want to give the community the same tools and resources that the people who are leaders in our community are utilizing when they do their teaching, all right? So it's good to have these things so you can fact check, you can research for yourself independent of what you're being said to see what conclusions you come to on your own. Do not take my word for anything that I say. Research it on your own. All I want to do is give you the methodology and the tools and the sources so you can come to your own conclusions, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for walking this thing out, and you're responsible for your journey with the Most High, not me. I don't want to tell you what to believe. I simply want to give you the research, the understanding, and the information behind the sources and methodology so you can come to your own conclusion. All right? I'm not trying to be a super guru or anything like that, or YouTube personality. My objective is to use this information to inspire you to partner up with KHM so we can go into the community together and use this deep information to fix societal ills by means of practical solutions. All right. That's why it's here. So I want to thank everybody for donating. I appreciate that. Everybody who shared the video, please hit the thumbs up. So everybody hit the thumbs up. Make sure you share this video, distribute it to our community so they can see it and they can understand. Everybody can be a party to it. All right. And I want to thank everybody for your feedback and input in the chat, for your donations and your support. Never mind Keith Williams, because he keeps talking stuff. He said, next time, stay out your feelings. He's saying stuff like that, but he's in his feelings, but he doesn't want to debate. But it's okay. All right. I love you, family. Thank you for watching. He says, what were the recommended Bible translation you gave earlier? The interlinear. If you want the interlinear, we have it on the Patreon, or you can email me at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com and we can send it to you. I prefer to use the ESV, but if you're going to use an English translation, I prefer to get it interlinear until you learn the language. And then when you have the language, you can go into the language yourself and you can compare and contrast it with other translations, whether they be formal equivalency, word for word translations, or dynamic equivalency, which are thought for thought translations. All right. Hopefully that answers your question. All right. All right. So thank you so much, family. I appreciate that. I love you guys. I'll see you next time we go live. Thank you for supporting this ministry, for supporting this channel, for bearing with me almost 3 hours. I pray that you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of your Shabbat for those who keep it. And then next time I see you guys, we're going to come back even stronger. All right. I love you guys. Peace.